Greetings, my fellow Americans. This is your President Samuel Ronan speaking, and today is Taco Tuesdays. It has been a hell of a weekend. It has been insanity from the craziness that was even last week. I cannot begin to fathom how much worse things can possibly get before things really have to take a stand. I mean, the Charlie Kirk thing, shockingly enough, is still relevant in the news, is still being played out in the news, still being played out amongst content creators, the MAGA community, the whole nine yards. It is still pushing a narrative. Now, granted, Trump already betrayed Kirk by ignoring the vigil and going golfing, which is pretty on brand for Trump. But the fact that what even is the word? I guess the insanity is a word. It's not the word I'm looking for. But the fact that people are still pushing the agenda, trying to push for hate crimes, trying to push for people getting doxxed or having their jobs taken, for not adequately mourning Charlie's death, or the fact that they are emphasizing that the Emmys didn't have a moment of silence, or that not every NFL team did, or this person or that person didn't show enough, pay enough homage to an avowed white nationalist and arguably a Nazi in every definition of the word. Of course, Nick Fuentes is the one who's an actual Nazi, proud card-carrying member, who was the one that said Charlie wasn't right-wing enough. So that's just what's happening in America. And that's not even all of the things that are happening in America. That's just that one news story that refuses to leave the cycle. On a much, much more positive note, Luigi Mangione has had two major charges against him dropped. Primarily the terrorism charge out. Just outright gone. His murder has been downgraded to manslaughter, which is, again, going to be well into his favor as we figure out that throughout this legal process that there was massive, massive mishandling of his case, the evidence, and of course, pitting society against him. So I think our boy Luigi might very well find himself exonerated when all is said and done. But unfortunately, in the meantime, he is remaining in prison, having his freedom taken from him, but his voice very much so not silenced. So with that said, we will get into the stream as it shows here through stream elements. We've got several things to cover. A lot of it will be, well, we do have a lot of Charlie videos, but some of it has to do with him and the fallout, but also the way that this administration is handling it. We also have the fact that there were lynchings in Mississippi. Two black men were found hanging from trees with their legs broken. And currently, the law enforcement of those jurisdictions are saying no foul play is suspected. As if any black person in America would hang themselves from a fucking tree. We also have ICE well, I shouldn't say beginning to, but ICE murdering people at traffic stops. They are now escalating to what normal cops do at traffic stops, which is murder brown people. And then, of course, we have some less heinous things that are still a problem, such as our jobs numbers and economic and domestic affairs. The lie continues. 1984 continues to be brought to life and be made a reality rather than, people pushing back. So, hence the Flammen background. We are not doing well, folks. We are not doing well. And I'm gonna level with y'all. These streams are supposed to be a little lighthearted. They're actually meant to be a little whimsical, believe it or not. Hence the beret, the Flammen background, the props and all that. Like, it is actually meant to be lighthearted. Unfortunately, I feel like this is just foreshadowing of what my presidency is going to look like. Unfortunately, these are all of the fires, no pun intended, that are going to have to be stamped out, crushed, beaten, and the ashes scattered before we can even begin the process of rebuilding. So I am going to be animated, especially in Congress and especially in the White House. And I guess this is your 2-year preview of my administration and my time in Congress. Hello, Anna. I didn't forget you there. I did see you. Welcome to the stream, and welcome everyone else as well. Let's get to it. Because, you know, good Lord. Okay. All right. Yeah, let Army vet charged with conspiracy for ICE protest. Was this the guy who burned the flag?
Veteran who joined an ICE protest and is now being charged with conspiracy to impede or injure officers. Legal experts have called the charges a test case.
How can you get that?
How far the Trump administration will go to punish dissent. Bajan Mavawala, who goes by Beji, is a 35-year-old former Army sergeant who survived a roadside bomb blast in Afghanistan. On June 11th, he saw a social media post by the former city council president of Spokane calling to protest the detention of a legal asylum seeker. Beji was one of hundreds who responded. The protest became confrontational. More than 24 people were arrested at the scene, but Beji wasn't one of them. On Instagram,
I was going to say, is that Beji? Because Beji does not look 35. If that's Beji, he looks like he's in his 50s. This guy could be Beji, though.
The Army veteran is briefly visible jostling with an agent before locking arms with other protesters. He was also injured by a rubber bullet at the protest. More than a month later, FBI agents came to his home at 6 a.m. and arrested him.
My son did his full
okay,
tour.
His father. That makes more sense.
When he completed his tour in Afghanistan, he decided to get out of the service, so he did not retire. This whole event has been staged by the Trump administration.
Yeah, no. Imagine that. Getting injured by a police officer without having committed any crimes or them giving you any crimes that you have committed and then charging you with a crime and taking away your freedom. Sounds really fucking familiar, doesn't it?
And my son was responding to a Reddit post and just wanted to go down and protest, to do what he could to raise up the voices there and show that they were opposed to ICE's actions, which literally were called for because the two gentlemen that were being detained were abiding by their mandatory court dates. They're tell these guys, hey, you've got to come here for court so you can get your status to remain on in the United States. And then they arrested them for coming to court. It's unconscionable.
It is. It is. Like, let's be very clear. The fact that people are getting arrested, and I don't even understand what happened. He got into a tussle with the police and then they arrested him. It sounded more like they shot him with a rubber bullet and then tried to wrestle him to the ground, and he didn't, just dead fish to allow them to do it. Like, here's the thing. When these officers grab you, they're already hyped up on adrenaline and they want to hurt you. Especially the ones at these protests. So especially if they're firing tear gas and rubber bullets, these cops want to hurt you. They want to hurt you specifically for daring to defy them, to defy this administration or whatever semblance of power they feel that they represent. They want to hurt you. And in that situation, if they've already escalated to the point of using some sort of projectile, they want to hurt you. They want to arrest you, and they know that. You know that, which means when they go to put hands on you, they know that you're going to react instinctively. It actually takes more focus to not resist an officer trying to arrest you than it does actually fighting the officer. And I can speak from personal experience on that. So the fact that these cops are then going to go around and arrest this guy for whatever is just indicative that that law enforcement has never been about protecting and serving the community, but has always been about maintaining power. That's it. That's all it's ever been. And to crushing dissent whenever possible. And I was a dissenter. And I got to deal with the same nonsense. It's one of the primary reasons why I try to avoid going to protests where there's a strong police presence, because I will get arrested or killed, because I will not allow these pieces of shit to harm innocent people. The problem is, if I get arrested or killed, I can't do these streams. I can't run for office. I cannot put your guys' voice on a much larger platform. And arguably, that's more of what we need. Sure, we could devolve this entire country into civil war, civil unrest, beat cops on sight. We could do all that. We could. Except then that's force escalation, and they're prepared for that. They will eventually run out of resources, and then they'll import them from other jurisdictions, other police agencies, or the National Guard. And that's the thing. We, the people, do outnumber every law enforcement agency in the country, bar none, like 99% to 1. You throw in the military, it's 98% to 1, okay? Or 98% of, yeah. Well, it's still 90, you get where I'm going with this, right? We outnumber them, the officers in the military. We outnumber them. That's not the question. There's also quite a few of us that are willing to take up arms and fight back and resist. Also not the question. The problem is when you do that, they respond in violence, and that violence only escalates. And at that point, there's unnecessary loss of life on both sides. Now, those cops should go to prison for, being Nazi war criminals, but that doesn't necessarily mean all of them need to die, right? Not all of them. Surely a few of them, the ones that have already engaged in extrajudicial murder, using their badge and all that. But I digress. We could do all the violent things. I could sit here and say, click clack, although this isn't a shotgun, it would be more like click clack, but I don't want to damage the prop by potentially prop chambering a rifle round. Anyway, Sam, there is no One Piece this week. What do we do? And it left on a cliffhanger. The people are asking the real questions here. So, what I do when my anime, I have binge watched it all the way through, and we're not going to get a new episode for another week, another 2 weeks, another month, or God forbid another year, Solo Leveling. I watch other anime and pray to God that they have a complete season with it. And then when I've binged all of that anime, I continue binging all the anime until I get down to like the ping pong anime and the sports anime. Because at that point, hopefully, by that point, all of the good anime has a new episode out. So, I hope that works out for you, True Steel. But yeah, if this administration and law enforcement and ICE are beginning to target veterans, specifically veterans, and trying to make examples of them, that means they want to do bad things to the population. Generally, the population. And we have videos in this stream where this administration pretty much says that out loud. Starting with this.
All right, this feels almost illegal to know, but our windows were so
not
old
this ad, of
and
course.
just desperately needed to be.
So
Trump claims left-wing radicals are the problem and implies radicals on the right are not. Which again, on the surface, implies that this administration wants to go after dissenting opinions. And he's building the social tolerance to normalize this kind of rhetoric. So when leftists, right, because at first when left-leaning folks were protesting on college campuses, public supported it. Well, now we got, 8 months later, all of a sudden the public is looking less and less toasty towards protesters. And so, again, the normalization has been put into effect.
So in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's shooting death, President Trump has been quick to point the finger of blame, even when a suspect had not yet been arrested. And a motive.
Oh wait, was this actually the day after? No, this was 3 days ago. So we already know that the shooter was a right winger, an actual Nazi, somebody who espouses and supports the actual Nazi movement in our country. Which, yes, there's a Nazi movement in our country. And Trump and his administration are still pushing the fact that it's left-wing radicals that are doing the killing and the violence when it's literally them.
for the killing still unknown.
How do we fix this country? How do we come back together?
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. The radicals on the left are the problem, and they're vicious and they're horrible. For years, those on the
Can we skip
He's a
this?
CNN senior political analyst and an opinion columnist for Bloomberg, and Ron just wrote a piece for Bloomberg.
So, again, this administration is pushing the narrative that right-wingers are radicalized because they feel that the rule of law isn't being followed. And he's saying left-wing radicals are radical because they want to undermine the rule of law. Well, newsflash, if the law states that your demographic no longer has human rights, that's not a law that needs to be protected. In fact, it violates the 14th Amendment. It violates the 5th Amendment. It violates the 4th Amendment. It violates the Constitution. So laws that openly discriminate and dehumanize an entire demographic or groups of demographics is intrinsically unconstitutional and therefore not legal. And yet it is the right-wing radicals that are trying to push those laws forward, which, again, were passed by right-wing radicals who were elected in the first place. And because there are no, roadblocks, triggers, if you will, that prevents these laws from being passed in the first place, or consequences from being enacted for even presenting these laws, they get passed by the right-wing radicals that happen to get elected. In my administration, whether we're talking about presidential administration or during my time in Congress, I am going to ensure, or at least from Congress's standpoint, I will fight to get passed an initiative, legislation, that mandates if anybody presents, proposes, or submits legislation that would be dehumanizing or unconstitutional by definition, without needing to go through the Supreme Court, it's just like, transgender people have to be othered. Transgenderism is a mental health issue. Brown people no longer have rights, etc., 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 right? Or gerrymandering, right? Redistricting outside of the census. Anything that could disenfranchise the people or undermine people's individual liberties. The person who did the submitting is immediately removed from office, charged with treason, and sentenced accordingly. And anyone who votes for it, which presented, right? So I guess it would be more like co-sponsoring because it wouldn't be voted on. You couldn't vote on it if the dude who presented it got arrested, right? But to be fair, I don't know the parliamentarian process. Just because you present something and then you get arrested, is it still considered presented? And therefore is needing to be addressed, to be voted on or whatever. Let's just say that is the parliamentarian thing. So if you then continue to vote for it, you also get removed, charged with treason, arrested, sentenced accordingly. And it should be retroactive. Should definitely be retroactive. And from the federal all the way down to the state, local, and county levels as well. Meaning, all of these racist scumbags and every Republican and Democrat who voted to give Israel bombs and money to perpetuate genocide, y'all get fired and removed and sentenced and charged accordingly as well. That's how you solve this problem, folks. If you try to propose or pass legislation that disenfranchises, commits genocide, commits war crimes, commits crimes against humanity, or otherwise harms, undermines the Constitution, violates international law, etc., et alia, et nauseum, you are stripped of your position, no questions asked. Immediately arrested, charged, and sentenced accordingly. The evidence being the fact that you had the audacity to present that legislation in the first place. I promise you, whether or not you vote to remove capitalism outright, you couldn't pass capitalist legislation because it is intrinsically disenfranchising and harmful and dehumanizing. Jesus. It is intrinsically dehumanizing as well. So capitalist legislation and capitalist policy could not succeed, could not even be presented, because empirically it would violate the Constitution. It would harm individuals. It would deny people their civil liberties and disenfranchise too many people. So my first day in Congress is going to be biblical, folks. Let me tell you, I'm going to be presenting a lot of bills. Again, through whatever the parliamentarian process is, my first day that I can present a bill, the day that I do, it's going to be that. It's going to be impeachment. It's going to be a boatload of things. An absolute fuck ton of things. So just stay tuned. All right. Well, let's hear the rest
Headline,
or
Charlie
some of this
Kirk's
video.
killing requires Trump to soothe, not inflame. Ron, great to see you.
Good morning, Fred.
So in your op-ed, you say, presidents are supposed to heal divisions after tragedy, not stoke them. We are reminded about how Clinton responded after the Oklahoma City bombing, or Obama after the Charleston church shooting. Can Trump follow the path of his predecessors by, if not now, but eventually dialing back rhetoric?
No, I think it's highly unlikely. It's hard to overstate how profoundly President Trump is not only departing from, but essentially inverting the first instinct of other presidents at a moment of national tragedy, which this is.
Okay, we're not debating Trump's fucking morals. We already know that he doesn't have any. We already know the motherfucker doesn't have ethics. Oh, Trump has done once more something that's absolutely heinous and fascistic on his path to trying to become a dictator. Shocking. Water is also wet. And again, should be grounds for impeachment and immediate removal from office. Again, why aren't there investigations into the voting machines that he publicly claimed were rigged by Elon Musk to give him the election? Or the fact that Charlie Kirk, an avowed white nationalist, was responsible for delivering the Gen Z male vote to Trump, contributing to his alleged victory, right? How about any of the hateful rhetoric that he has been espousing from from the office, right? Or the absolute violation of the emoluments clauses every single chance he gets. The fact that his ICE, that his agency is terrorizing every immigrant, regardless of their status in America, to include people who are natural-born citizens but look brown, are Hispanic, are Nigerian, are, I don't know, I think there was a few white type, like Ukrainian or I want to say Russian, maybe Polish. He's gone after everybody with slight, first or second generation status as well. He's going after everybody, which is in gross violation of at least 3 amendments in our Constitution. So, why are we not actively and aggressively talking about this? We as a country, obviously I am. Hassan is. Is he even on right now? But the fact that the news refuses, that most elected officials refuse, the fact that so much, even international news, refuses to cover the crimes for the crimes that they are. They are just saying, there's Trump being Trump again. It's no, there's the president of the United States committing crimes against democracy. And I love that phrase. I'm a little calm right now, I guess. I haven't gotten quite worked up. Maybe the honey hasn't kicked in yet. But let me tell you something. Crimes against democracy are what we are witnessing being committed each and every single day by this administration. And not a single person is bringing that up. Anna, go over to Hassan and say, hey, buddy, help coin crimes against democracy in America. I'm just saying, something has to give. And being shocked, like the shocked Pikachu face, Trump did something heinous? What? He's committing crimes against democracy. And it needs to be said as such.
Are you researching dental implants?
There's a lot of dental offices that'll talk about doing their...
The man accused of shooting and killing Charlie Kirk is expected to make his first court appearance today. And the social media platform Discord says he appeared to confess to the crime in a group chat. There was a vigil for Kirk last night, and House Speaker Mike Johnson spoke about the political violence we're seeing across the country.
The sadness for so many of us turned to anger, and there's
First of all, nobody fucking
The
cares.
is still looking for a motive. They have not released specific information on that just yet. But tell us about messages they did find as part of this Discord chat.
Right, so they're going all through the suspect's social media accounts, Discord, his text messages, his phone calls, and 2 law enforcement sources tell CBS News that an account that appeared to belong to the suspect just about 2 hours before he was arrested claimed responsibility, saying in part, "It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all of this." But the big question is, was he talking with anyone about his plans before the shooting?
He had a text message exchange, he the suspect, with another individual, in which he claimed that he had an opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and he was going to do it because of his hatred for what Charlie stood for.
So, you know what's crazy about all this, though? CBS is presenting this story and Tyler as if Tyler really was against Charlie Kirk's values, views, rhetoric, any of that. He wasn't against it. He didn't think Charlie Kirk was right-wing enough. He didn't... his disagreement with Kirk was not because Tyler was fighting for the future, for the left, for socialism and utopian whatever, universal health care. Tyler murdered Charlie because he believed Charlie wasn't racist enough, wasn't white supremacist enough, wasn't totalitarian enough, was not authoritarian enough. And these motherfuckers are presenting it as if they were on 2 diametrically opposed positions on the scale. And that's just not the case.
This is important, right? Because this suggests that someone else had knowledge of this shooting before it occurred. Now, right now, there haven't been any other arrests in this case, and they have said that they believe the shooter acted alone. But if they have evidence that suggests someone else knew about this and didn't say something, well, that could lead us further down this investigation, potentially to another person.
And we'll stick close to your...
Yeah, don't get banned from his channel, though. He really doesn't like it when people promote on his chat. All that being said, they're presenting this entire story as if it is a fucking conspiracy, rather than the fact that they are 2 right-wing extremists that are basically going to war with each other. Now, I'm going to say this part. I'm going to say it out loud. I really hope that these right-wing extremists kill each other. It'll save us a whole lot of time, energy, and effort if here's the thing. Charlie Kirk isn't not a fascist. That's the thing. He's very much so a fascist. He's a white supremacist. He doesn't believe women should be in any sort of power or authority. They should be at home, barefoot and pregnant. He's racist. I don't know if I already said that, but it needs to be said, because he genuinely did not believe that people of color were qualified to be in any position that they were in, and that any position that they were in was solely due to DEI, otherwise known as quotas or whatever else they want to call it over the course of years, right? He openly mocked the death and murder of George Floyd and the Democrats who got murdered. Openly mocked them and called for more violence against left-leaning individuals on top of that. Obviously licks the boot of law enforcement, right? And an avid Trump supporter. The only thing he might have done that was broken clock correct is demanding the Epstein files. And I think he criticized Israel. Other than that, the only difference between that rhetoric and what the Trump administration is doing And what the other extremists want is to do the violent part more. I think Charlie only... I don't remember all of his quotes. I really don't, because I don't care to know them. But I'm fairly certain Charlie did advocate for more violence against politicians. He did advocate for more violence broadly for political gain. Whereas the Trump administration is ramping up the violence, and the even more extreme right-wingers like the Nick Fuenteses and so on and so forth, they are calling for the open slaughter and violent activities against brown people, transgender people, women, and left-leaning individuals. But ideologically, they are the same. They want a white Christian ethno-state. That's it. That's what both of them want. One of them just wants to be more violent about it, and, well, they were more violent about it. Which is nuts, because they were singing Kumbaya and holding hands all this time to get to the point where Project 2025 and Trump could execute their ideology, the white ethno-Christian state. And now that they have it, now they're going to start infighting, but like literally killing each other. So honestly, have at it, boys. Have at it. Do everyone a favor. And then when all of your leaders are dead and all of your base are no longer belong to you, maybe we can start to heal as a fucking country. And Department of Defense tracking negative SOPs. Charlie Kirk posts. Well,
I use Scribe.
I guess I'm on the
Meanwhile,
DoD
Department of
watch
Defense
board now.
Secretary Pete Hegseth says the Pentagon is tracking any comments from military or civilian employees who celebrate or mock the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, Hegseth taking to social...
That is literally exactly what the military should be doing, is mocking his death and condemning this administration for trying to protect it at all. Because again, he advocated for violence against brown people and people of color broadly. He was a clear and domestic threat to our Constitution and to our national sovereignty, our safety, our security, our social well-being. But of course, when you have a white supremacist in charge, what are you going to do, right?
Social media saying, quote, "We are tracking all these very closely and will address immediately, completely unacceptable." News Nation Washington correspondent Libby Dean live in Washington, D.C. for us. Libby, what are you learning this hour? Are things changing, staying the same with this?
Well, Laura, you've seen this play out over social media just like I have. Nearly every day since Charlie Kirk was murdered, we've seen at least one person fired. And it's not just here in Washington, it's really all across America. And of course, they're being fired for comments making light of Charlie Kirk's death. Companies like Delta, Office Depot, MSNBC, the Carolina Panthers, the Joe Burrow Foundation, and others firing employees.
All right, let's be very clear. I'm not afraid. I work at Marzetti, Allen Dairy, in Columbus, Ohio, on Frank Road. Charlie Kirk deserved to die. Once I would have become president, I would have sentenced and charged him to death regardless. Because again, inciting violence against the population, propaganda, fomenting, aiding and abetting, and perpetuating crimes against humanity and war crimes, attempting to normalize the above, aiding, abetting, and supporting an administration who is committing them, stirring public opinion to encourage more violations of the Constitution. Like, the man was going to get sentenced to death regardless. That's actually the only thing that pisses me off about him getting murdered by a different right-winger, is the fact that Charlie Kirk deserved to live, to face justice for his crimes, much like Goebbels did, and Himmler, and however many others there were, in a court of law, where they were then sentenced and executed accordingly. So go ahead and call my boss. Go ahead and call my job. Go ahead. Samuel Ronan, Marzetti Allen Dairy, in Columbus, Ohio, Frank Road. Call him now while it's live. Call him when I post it on YouTube. I don't give a fuck. Charlie Kirk is a criminal. The crime being quite a lot, whether it's using his platform to sow discord and disturbing the peace, advocating for death of minorities, aiding and abetting this administration, advocating for and supporting war crimes and crimes against humanity. Like, the list really does go on. Inciting violence. We could even call inciting insurrection, because what's happening with this regime is nothing short of a coup d'etat against our democracy. So we could also label crimes against democracy on that thing. Oh, he also created a website and a platform to dox professors who condemned him with his platform, threatened, and actually caused some of those professors to face actual acts of violence against them. So, again, and I cannot emphasize this enough, the man was guilty of capital crimes, and the only thing that I feel bad about with regards to his death is that I was not the president to issue the orders and the request the Justice Department to charge, arrest, and sentence him accordingly. That's my only regret, is that he is not alive to face justice at the national, if not international level. I'm sorry to hear that, Anna. I was kind of crashing out there for a second, but all good. Once we're big enough and feisty enough and handsome enough without a shirt on, I'm sure Hassan will start paying attention to us.
Various posts and actions making comments about Charlie Kirk's passing. Now, back here in Washington, though, as you mentioned, Laura, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, he is issuing this stark warning for his employees, saying they are actively monitoring any military or civilian personnel who post online comments that celebrate or make light of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, we did reach out to the Pentagon when we were asking for any updated...
Which, that action alone is a violation of the First Amendment. Right? Now, you've heard me say, that sounds pretty hypocritical, doesn't it? You say you advocate for the First Amendment, but you want to hold him accountable for violating it. Oh, make up your mind, huh? What is it? Okay, all right, cool. You can say whatever the fuck you want. You can say whatever the fuck you want. Whatever you say has consequences, right? Yeah, we can all agree that your actions still have consequences. But here's the thing. The First Amendment is specifically there so that the government cannot censor you and cannot determine what is lawful and unlawful speech, right? The government mandating and forcing this narrative to be extremely one-sided in determining what is and wasn't legal speech is exactly why the First Amendment does exist the way that it is, right? Because at this point, the administration, the regime, is now setting the stage for, if you dissent at all, we can punish you. This is literally the first step to getting to if any dissent whatsoever, if you challenge Big Brother, we can kill you, or we can charge you, or we can do X, Y, and Z, right? Because again, every single person on this administration, every single right-winger, has gone out of their way to mock openly every black person that got murdered by cops, the Democrats that got murdered by their own, every death and violent atrocity that has occurred, blaming Hamas for all of the genocide that Israel is committing. That is fully protected. That is even encouraged. But celebrating the death of Kirk or other right-wingers, that's what's going to be condemned. That is one-sided. That is exactly what the First Amendment is put in place for, to prevent from happening. And it's happening, ergo, it is only going to escalate. Because again, everything that a fascist organization does is to escalate and consolidate its own power. It starts here to normalize, and then it normalizes up until the point where dissent is now punishable by death. Just to put this into perspective. Why is that's a very good fucking question. Why is the Department of War involved in this? Why is the military silencing dissent? when, there's already a significant amount of dissent from active duty and apparently guardsmen who view this administration's actions as unlawful, considering they are. Why would the Secretary of Defense threaten his entire department with retribution?
Numbers on who had been fired there. And they referred us directly to this post from Sean Parnell. And I want us to take a listen to the governor of Utah's thoughts overall on social media's impact here.
This is not good for us. It is not good to consume. Social media is a cancer on our society right now. And I would encourage people to log on.
Yeah, it's cancer now because you're condemning right-wing policies. But it's great when you're supporting, aiding, and abetting right-wing policies. And again, right-wing on the Overton window can only ever go to totalitarian and authoritarianism. That's it. Right-wing has one stop. That's it. One direction that it can go to. And it is control. Complete, absolute authoritarian control. That's it. That is the ultimate red line on the Overton window is absolute authoritarian control. One person dictating to everyone else using violence and threats of violence every chance that they can get. So whenever people are espousing those beliefs to one degree or another, social media is great. Long live Charlie Kirk, the president's favorite YouTuber. But now that the favorite YouTuber is being openly mocked after dying and being murdered, now all of a sudden it's a cancer.
Turn off, touch grass, hug a family member, go out and do good in your community.
The governor telling Americans to touch grass after Charlie Kirk's assassination. Now, tonight in D.C., there is a prayer vigil being held here.
Yeah, fuck that. I don't give a shit. Also, when the regime begins to co-opt the language of the youngest generation to touch grass, right? That's Gen Z speak. You know that it's propaganda. That motherfucker doesn't use that on a regular basis. He's been trained or is training himself to use these words to try and, again, direct the narrative. That's effective propaganda. And you'll notice that no news organization is doing anything to counter the message of this regime. None. Not a single one of them. Why? They are complicit. And now we've got threatening foreigners. Outstanding. That's why I said we have a lot of videos concerning Kirk, but it's not so much about Kirk himself. It's more so this administration using Kirk's murder to consolidate its power and authority, which very, very concerningly implies that Kirk's murder, which it was a murder, not arguing that. It's not an assassination. He wasn't a political figure. He wasn't elected. He doesn't deserve that kind of accolade. He was murdered. But his murder triggering so much power consolidation, so much threats against society, so much consolidation of powers against dissent, really and truly implies that this was a false flag attack. That, sure, fine, Tyler did the deed, but how many Tylers were there? How many stops did Charlie still have on his tour? Why did this shooter get activated and not a different one? Why did they choose to stop it at Utah? Was Utah just so happened to be where it was? The thing is, right? False flags are events that allow an action to be either buried or hidden or justified due to the events of the false flag. Trump has been losing ground ever since Epstein started blowing up in media. It is the one thing that has actually held him back this entire fucking time. It wasn't the Nazis raiding brown communities or workplaces or terrorizing South Koreans at the Hyundai plant. It was none of that. Nope. It wasn't the white supremacy. It wasn't the Nazi salute during his inauguration. It wasn't any of that shit. Nope. It was the Epstein files. But now, They're actually normalizing it and getting it kind of pushed and scrubbed out of the news cycle. So, what can they do to help prevent it from regaining momentum? Targeting dissenters. If you challenge Big Brother, dear leader, we will come after you. Granted, we just can't come out and say that. We have to first start with going after dear leader's favorite YouTuber. Anybody who celebrated his death is a dissenter, and you will be punished. You'll lose your job, you'll lose your credibility, you'll lose your credentials, whatever, right? We're going to target you. And then it's going to be Republicans, any elected official. And then it's going to be at the local and state levels. And then it's going to be at the congressional levels. And then it's going to be anybody who goes against Trump's politics and views, to include challenging ICE or protesting ICE. Because why? Why would I say this? Because it's already happening in the UK. It's already happening throughout the world. It's already happening in America. People have been getting arrested for protesting since the dawn of time, right? Since the dawn of America. Except now, you're being arrested for simply being present. And being charged depending on what the protest was about. If it's for Palestine, you're charged with anti-Semitism. It's for against ICE. Now it's going to be for domestic terrorism. Like we saw with that Army veteran earlier. So, my point is Charlie Kirk had to die so this administration could continue to consolidate its crackdown on dissent in the United States of America. And quite frankly, I wish a motherfucker would. Because there will come a tipping point. I'm sad to say it hasn't happened yet, but there will come a tipping point where people will say enough is enough. You are clearly blatantly grabbing for power. You are clearly blatantly violating everybody's rights, to include those that agree with you. And at that point, it's probably too fucking late. However, hopefully somewhere before that point, people start to recognize, like, no, we don't have to live this way. No, we don't have to deal with this nonsense, and we can stand up, fight back. And that is where my campaign for Congress comes into play. I want to be the first shot in this escalating civil war, this cold civil war, where the violence is completely one-sided. A bloodless civil war in that nobody is fighting against this government, but this government is murdering innocent people. So, let's see what this is about. All right,
Welcome back. If nothing else, Charlie Kirk was an activist of free speech.
Hold the fuck up. Fox News? Okay. We're obviously not going to platform Fox News. But, in light of yesterday's horrific assassination of a leading political figure, I want to underscore that foreigners who glorify violence and hatred are not welcome visitors to our country. Christopher Landau, Deputy Secretary of State, September 11. Via X, of course. Via Twitter. Because God forbid, secretaries, deputy secretaries of state, or any cabinet position actually issue official correspondences and memorandums through, I don't know, news agencies and not a social media platform. So, this administration has already targeted foreign visitors, continues to target foreign visitors. People that are here on a visitor's visa have been captured by ICE, detained, and sent to concentration camps. Some of them were released days, weeks, or months later. Again, the South Korean workers at the Hyundai plant, where the Atlanta, Georgia congressional candidate deliberately called ICE against them, were all here legally with work visas. Okay? This administration is trying to instill its platform and policies of racism and xenophobia across the globe while still trying to claim or interact with these countries in terms of trade, which makes no fucking sense. Why would I trade with you if you are threatening my population with kidnapping and human trafficking under conditions that violate the Geneva Conventions and are designated war crimes or crimes against humanity. So, when I say that this administration is doing things internationally and that things are happening internationally to appease this administration, that is what I'm talking about. The UK acting the way it does is a sign to Trump that, hey, we're in cahoots. The fact that they're, Argentina is doing heinous shit and treating its people the same way while getting kickbacks from this administration is their way of saying, hey, we're on the same side, right? Every country that aids and abets this administration by adhering and capitulating to these policies and demands is spreading the fascism globally. Which I don't know if I need to finish that thought, is not good, is dangerous for everyone. And now they are actively threatening citizens of other countries, do not come to America if you're going to mock the president, if you're going to mock our dear leader. It's honestly the same shit as to why nobody goes to North Korea to travel. One, all of the fucking sanctions. But two, if you mock dear leader, they will fucking kill you, right? So America is acting like we're already a dictatorship by threatening other countries and their citizens, deterring them from coming here, which is causing us to lose billions, if not trillions of dollars in tourist revenue. Because America is a travel destination. People want to go to New York, Los Angeles. They want to see the Midwest. They want to see the cornfields. They want to see Las Vegas. They want to see our natural wonders. They want to see things in America. But now they see that there are soldiers marching in the streets, threatening governors, threatening mayors. You have the secret police kidnapping and trafficking people of color, regardless of their background, regardless of their status, taking them out of fucking kindergarten and first grade and disappearing them in broad fucking daylight. And people are like, yeah, I'm not going there. Are you fucking kidding me? That would be the dumbest thing I could possibly do with my life right now. And this tactic, in this regime's mind, is a way to force those countries to adhere to his trade policies, or else they lose the support of America. Like, evil for the sake of evil with no gain. So that's where we're at there. Online chats, I don't really give a shit about his mindset. So I guess if we run out of content, we can do all that. Death penalty sought for the alleged assassin. Sure. Whatever. I'm actually not opposed to giving him the death penalty. For murder. There's not really that. Oh, here we go. The hypocrisy.
Get more for less with
That would
Tim
be a
Hortons
great one. Let's
$1,
do the
$2,
hypocrisy
$3
video.
menu. Order any size beverage. And out of
President Trump defending not lowering flags to half staff when Melissa Hortman, the Democratic Minnesota House Speaker, was assassinated by someone posing as a police officer in the middle of the night at her home. She opened the door. She was assassinated. He also then said he didn't know who she was.
Do you think it would have been fitting to lower the flags to half staff when Melissa Hortman, the Minnesota House Speaker, was gunned down by an assassin as well?
I'm not familiar.
The Minnesota House Speaker, a Democrat, who was assassinated this summer.
Well, if the governor had asked me to do that, I would have done that. But the governor of Minnesota didn't ask me.
Pretty sure the governor of Utah didn't ask you to set the flags to half staff. I think you made it an executive fucking order. Which again goes to the propensity for this administration, this regime, to pass laws, to pass actions and activities that are extremely one-sided, which makes them, by definition, illegal. You cannot create laws that only impact one group, one demographic, one half, one believer, one whatever. You cannot do that. Laws must be equal. That is the basic definition of a law. Everybody has to adhere to it. Everyone has to abide by it. And here we are with this administration claiming that they did not know about the assassination, the high-profile assassination of a Democrat, which did send Minnesota to a lockdown. And then coming with the dumbass excuse that the governor didn't ask me to do that, when everyone under the sun went out of their way to lower their flags to half-staff for Kirk, whether they were prompted to or not. To the point where when I was driving to work or to the gym or wherever, I noticed a house and a church that had lowered their flags to half-staff. That's disgusting. It is disgusting how close in proximity I am to the kind of individuals that would lower the flag to half-staff for a Nazi, for a white supremacist, for someone to the equivalent of Goebbels, someone to the equivalent of, like, slave owners. These same people would have mourned Hitler, Goebbels, slave owners, the KKK leadership being killed. And they're our neighbors. There are places where, as a community, we go to worship, where our children go to socialize. These are people we work with, people we live next to. Actively, brazenly, and in broad daylight are supporting and mourning with their actions an avowed white supremacist. We have fallen quite far as a country from the days of fighting Nazis in World War II and claiming to at least fight against evil and cruelty during all of our other conflicts. Granted, America's never been the good guys. We know this. On this channel, we know this. But at least we pretended we were the good guys. And at least we pretended that what we were fighting for was democracy and the American dream. Equality, equity, growth, prosperity. We at least pretended. Now, we are openly and brazenly advocating for the subjugation of all non-white Christian males. And people are supporting that more and more openly, more and more brazenly. It's going to take a lot to come back from that. It's going to take a lot to come back from that. And quite frankly, we need to start setting the groundwork now. And then this is more, this video is going to be more normalizing vitriol against dissent by labeling it all as the left wing.
Igniting right-wing calls for a crackdown on the left. And this afternoon, Vice President J.D. Vance, the presumptive future leader of the Republican Party, took the mic.
People on the left are much likelier to defend and celebrate political violence. This is not a both sides problem. If both sides have a problem, one side has a much bigger and malignant problem, and that is the truth we must be told.
That was the...
Yeah. He's absolutely right. One side does have a bigger problem. It does condone and celebrate violence, and it enacts violence. The problem is, he is lying about which side that is. It is statistical fact. It is irrefutable fact that the majority of politically driven murders, killings, and extreme activist actions have all been carried out in America by right wings, by right-wing affiliated individuals. Over 70% of them all. And if we start including things like, active shooters and mass shootings broadly, that is also right-wingers, predominantly white male. Like, again, nobody's challenging this. And CNN is supposed to be a liberal stronghold news network, and they're not fighting back against it. Let's see what she says.
Vice President guest hosting the late Charlie Kirk's podcast. What you just heard, that the left has a problem that the right doesn't have, that was a recurring theme of what he said today. Vance also spoke, though, about his personal experiences with hostility from the left. He told all of us about a family visit he took to an amusement park.
Okay. She's not countering his claims. That's the fucking point. How are you going to listen to this? How are you going to listen to this and then not challenge those positions in the slightest? That is literally your job. That is literally the one thing you're supposed to be doing here. And instead, you're giving them a fucking platform and not challenging it whatsoever.
Fringe. The vice president there acknowledging that it's not most people on the left who are shouting at children or celebrating an assassination. Still, Vance went on to argue that extremism on the left is, quote, growing and powerful. And if you listen to what he says next, it really makes the path out of this wilderness seem...
I want to watch these videos. I want to discuss the issues. I want to discuss the real problems. The problem, however, is that these fuckers don't. They never fucking do. They listen to the rhetoric. They listen to the bullshit. They listen to the radical left. They're the problem. And the only thing that they respond to is paraphrasing what that psychopath just said. J.D. Vance, VP, said X, Y, and Z. Not providing, and the statistical evidence suggests otherwise. Like, even if you're not actively fighting and pushing back, which I would prefer, don't get me wrong, I wish you fucking would. But at the very least, my God, challenge it. Fact check it. All right? If that's the better word, fact check this piece of garbage. Fact check every single one of these conservative fools. Because all you're doing is giving them a platform on a channel for an audience that normally would not be exposed to it without challenging it or critiquing it in the slightest. And what do you think happens when white supremacists, when fascists, when capitalists, when all of these ists and isms have a platform, spread their ilk, their ire, their whatever bullshit, and it's taken at face value, not challenged or critiqued, but it's repeated over and over and over again, and it's just blown up to everybody's viewpoint. That becomes the narrative. That becomes the message. And then people are shocked when fascism comes home to roost. You're not challenging fascism. You're not challenging the violence. You're not even criticizing it. You're not even objectively dismantling it. You're not even putting up an ounce of resistance. You are literally allowing them to use your platform to spread their hate. Then why the fuck do you have a platform if you're just going to give it over to them anyway? I wonder if certain friends on the left that are besties with JD are still friendly with him. No, I'm pretty sure they are. I'm pretty sure that if you were willing to be friends with JD Vance, knowing what he was, both prior to any of this nonsense, but knowing what he was from day one of the inauguration, the kind of person that he was leading up to throughout the election process and getting elected and then going and stumping and all that, you cannot tell me that this is a shock to you and now all of a sudden you've seen the light of day. No. I'm positive that if you were a supporter, if you were friends with him, you're still going to remain friends with him and you're still going to support him, because if you actually had values and morals to stand on, you would have ostracized yourself from him already. And, oh, but what about working with the enemy to at least accomplish some good? Okay, what good have you accomplished? What good has this administration accomplished for the worker? I mean, honestly, for the worker or for the citizen? Just generally speaking, what has this administration done, whether through the influence of the vice president or not? What good have they... Sorry. What good have they accomplished? Has J.D. Vance gone to like a blue state and coordinated with a union or a city or a district and used his influence to help even like a bridge get built or a road get built? Have any of these things happened? And the answer is no. You sold out and betrayed the very thing you claim to be a part of and support by trying to meet fascists somewhere in the middle, only for them to draw an even further line in the sand to the right. You can never reason with these people because there is nothing to reason with. The only thing they care about is power, dominance, and control. They kept telling me that JD and Tulsi were going to keep Trump from being a warmonger. Yeah. No, and it's even worse when you see leftists who were like avid Bernie supporters. The leftist, most left-leaning, Star Trek utopian, burn it all down, communism, flip the switch and go to Trump because at least Trump's doing something. I mean, those people are just as distressing to me because you stood for nothing. You clearly stood for nothing. You had no morals and no principles because you refused to actually stand your ground in the face of actual opposition. You didn't even hold the person that you celebrated, AOC, Bernie Sanders. You didn't hold them accountable. You didn't drag them left. You didn't keep them at the left that they were at to begin with. So you just jump ship and go conservative? Like, I have a feeling like you were just looking for an excuse. Like, honestly, people who are radicalized to the right, well, I was a moderate, I was a centrist, I did care about Black Lives Matter, I did care about believe all women, and I did care about, you know, the indigenous women being murdered and raped. I gave a shit about all of these social justice issues, clean energy, universal healthcare, and education, but you were mean to me when my favorite podcaster died, or when a guy that I didn't know was a racist piece of shit, because it never impacted my life personally. When those people get challenged, they immediately say, well, because you hurt my feelings, I'm going to go to the other team because you hurt my feelings. When the other team is going out of their way to hurt everybody's feelings, life, and dignity in existence, save for people who look like me. So, no. If you are such a weak, pathetic piece of shit coward that you cannot stand on your own principles in the face of opposition, challenge, or even mild mockery without capitulating to fascism, then you are always a fascist. You are always a good German. You are always weak, pathetic, and ineffective. You are always going to be a victim. And you are always going to be on the wrong side of history. It was just a matter of time for the bad thing to happen so you could drop to your knees as quickly as you could to lick the boot. I was a moderate and I cared about black people being murdered, but a black person farted in the elevator and it smelled bad, so now I'm a MAGA. I mean, that's hilarious, and I didn't want to laugh because that's a serious point. And there are many people who actually act and sound like that. It's like, well, you know, I would support Black Lives Matter, but all of this black on black crime. I work with a black guy and he's the laziest motherfucker I know. Really? Because you've been sitting in here, my office, being racist and sexist for the past 20 minutes, and I've told you to stop several times, and you keep going. So who's lazy? The guy who's wasted 20 minutes being racist? Or the guy who just might not be that great at his job? Which, by all means, don't be good at your job. In fact, I encourage people to suck at their jobs. I encourage everyone watching, listening now or in the future to do less than the minimum. Like, whatever your job description says, do less than that. Like, we need a general strike, and if the first step to getting a general strike is doing less than the minimum, like less than what your job description requires, like, for instance, I'm not saying get fired, right, by being late repeatedly or taking extra long lunches, then you're going to be in financial distress. But say your job description, say you're working in fast food, and I'm only really familiar with Subway. So you're working at Subway, and your job involves making the sandwiches, replacing the meats and the vegetables. Don't do one or the other. And encourage all of your coworkers to do the same. Do one or the other. And then start even doing less than that. Right? Make it intolerable. Right? Make it intolerable for your employers to deal with you. Right? Make it intolerable. Not to the point of getting fired. But when they question you, why are you doing this? You used to be such a good hard worker, Tell them it's because you don't get enough pay, you don't get enough breaks, and you don't get enough benefits, and you are giving them the value that they deem you are worth, right? They only deem you're worth $7.50 an hour, or less in some cases, right? So you're going to get $7.50 or less worth of quality labor out of me. You want $21 an hour worth of labor where I'm making sandwiches and filling the produce and giving customers a smile and a pat on the ass on their way out the door, then you will fucking pay me for it. And that number starts at $21 an hour, $25 an hour, whatever, $35 an hour, whatever it is for your industry. Quite frankly, I think 35 could easily be a minimum wage. We can have that argument. That's not the point. The point is stand your ground. Do less. If it takes you 2 hours to do a task, make it last 4 or 8 hours, right? Or scroll on your phone, take longer breaks, right? I work in the office, and the tasks that I do take me all of 15 minutes to do, and I watch anime for the rest of the day. And I have had multiple conversations with my management. Let me work from home. I'm still going to watch anime, but you don't have to see me do it. And if you need me, I still have my computer there with Teams, right? So I go out of my way to do my job as minimally as possible and then show them that they are wasting their money, right? I haven't been able to get everybody else at my shop to do that, but hey, it's a start, right? It is a fucking start. Nobody wants to work anymore. Correct. Nobody wants to work for you anymore because you treat us like slaves. You do not respect us. You do not treat us well. When was the last company you worked for that actually gave out a bonus? Yet every single fucking company in America brags about their quarterly profits. Every single company. In fact, there was a thing that they're trying to pass now in Congress where instead of quarterly reports, they only have to do semi-annual reports. Or biannual? I always get confused. Every 6 months. Which means that they can go 3 more months without having to report their ill-gotten gains and their illicit activities. Which gives them 3 more months to cover their tracks. Or at least make it harder to track through the IRS or whatever forensic financial policing is out there. You see what I'm saying? Like, this country, this administration continues to push an agenda and an initiative to undermine us as both people and workers. Every single step that they get. And what do? We capitulate. Overwhelmingly, we capitulate when we could simply do less and drive these businesses into the ground. We could strike. We could literally not come into work. And they couldn't do shit. They can't fire us all. And in Japan, just as an example, they still go to work. They still perform their jobs as they do. But like the bus drivers won't accept fares. They're still going to do the bus. They're still going to do the route. They're still going to do everything, but they're not going to accept fares. The city or the company loses a shit ton of money, but nobody's inconvenienced. We could do the same fucking thing. Imagine you're working at Subway, McDonald's, Tim Hortons, Starbucks, even though we're boycotting Starbucks, Target, even though we're boycotting Target. People go there and you don't ring them out. That you scan their shit and then you do the button thing and then it's 0. And you say, have a nice day. You do that for 24 hours. Collectively, all of us do that. These companies could not survive. There are many ways to skin this cat. And we really fucking need to get up with it. I'm not sure if this is true or not, but TMZ is saying Red Overlord didn't go to the vigil because he was golfing at his country club in Jersey. That is true. That has been widely reported. That has been both widely reported and confirmed that he's using Charlie Kirk's death for his political benefit, but doesn't actually give a shit about him. Because, of course, he doesn't. This is talking about the doxing. You know what? Maybe this video, Director Patel faces criticism. Maybe we'll actually see one news report do its job. Let's see.
Don't try this nighttime trick unless you actually want to piss the excess sugar out through your urine all night long.
What in the
FBI
fuck
Director Kash
ads are we
Patel
getting
is
now?
about to face some tough questions when he testifies this week on Capitol Hill after some mistakes in his handling of Charlie Kirk's assassination investigation. Conservative activist Charles Rufo posted this. Chris Rufo posted this. It's time for Republicans to assess whether Patel is the right man to run the FBI, adding that he performed terribly in the last few days. So Patel
Buddy, it's been obvious. It has been evident from day fucking one that he was not the right man to run the FBI, and that he does not have the operational expertise to investigate, infiltrate, or disrupt movements or ideology. Like, the man he was a podcaster, for fuck's sake. How the hell did you expect a fucking podcaster to be the top cop in America? What in the flying fuck did you think was going to happen?
Sir Cox sees it.
This was a co-lead operation. So the FBI was co-lead with the state. We worked very closely together. I think Director Patel would tell you it was flawless. It was everybody just trying to decide, is this a good idea? The reasons to release it, I think, are pretty obvious, right? It makes it easier for lots of people to see it and maybe find someone.
Group chat is back. I wanted to bring this up because these questions were sort of coming from inside the House, so to speak, and we were pointing out Rufo's tweet in particular because it was not just some flyby post of like, this guy is bad. It was a long explanation of why he thinks people should assess this.
Right. Hiring sycophants and bootlickers doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be able to do the job that you're giving them or that you promised them. Like, this has always been the case throughout history. The lords and the ladies currying favor with the king or the prince as soon as they ascend the throne or on their path to ascending the throne so that they can get favorable treatment once they're there. Being kings of the north, being the lords of the north, being lords of commerce, lords of this, that, and the other. Just because they helped you get there doesn't mean they have any ability whatsoever to do the job. Like, it literally doesn't. Now, well, then what gives you the credentials to be president or Congress, huh? Mr. Ronan, huh? Talking all that shit. What skills and experience do you have to do the most important job in the world and America? Fair point. Very fair point. I will answer that question by stating this. My skill set happens to be very, very strong and specialized in administration. I am very good at administrative things. I'm very good at managing departments, people, organizations. I'm very good at that. I don't know why I'm very good at that. My titles have included campaign, campaign manager, candidate. It's DNC chair candidate, right? I debated on the national debate stage, provided my platform, and evidently won the hearts and support of thousands, if not millions, of Americans across the country. So my actions have proven to be on the right side of history. My follow through, my explanations have proven to be amenable to the public. And, well, my professional history would also suggest that I have the capability of improving processes, advancing training, and improving performance across any industry, across any department that I find myself in. So, am I eminently qualified to be the FBI director? No. Probably not. But if I were the FBI director, I would at least know how an organization operates. I would be able to assess how either efficiently or inefficiently we are operating, and I would be able to assess our performances and processes based on how effective they are. And I would be able to analyze those things and determine whether or not they are for the greater good, i.e. achieving the goal of going after bad guys, or not. Hey, our FBI agents have been getting shot a lot lately. And it seems like there's not enough vests to go around. We need more of this. Oh, it seems like we're being caught in undercover investigations more often. Well, clearly we need more undercover training. Let's create that. Hey, the overall marksmanship of the FBI has gone down. All right, cool. We need to increase firearms training and accessibility. Hey, the reporting process seems to be a little convoluted. Well, we need redundancy, but let's see how much of it we can digitize. Can we make it accessible through a secure NIPRNet, or does it all have to be SIPRNet, right? How can we consolidate our processes and improve them? Do we need 15 forms for this, but only 3 forms for that? Well, maybe we should consolidate it all down to 3 forms per process, right? There are ways to skin a cat without even knowing what kind of cat it is, because it's a cat. An organization is an organization is an organization, whether they're R&D or the FBI. That is what separates me from these fucking idiots that do not know their heads from their assholes, because the only thing they know how to do is get on a microphone in front of a camera and spew forth filth, rhetoric, and propaganda while choking on the cock of a wannabe dictator. Oh, and they have lots of fucking money to do it. If I had $1 million and I could hire a staff of 5 people, one person to prettify, like do all the pretty like designs for Twitch and all of my other social media platforms, like they do all the graphic design. That is their full-time job. If I had one person to do that, one person, maybe 2, to manage all of the different platforms, and then 2 video editors, like to either cut videos and make them pretty, or help me make pretty videos in the first place, just those 5 people alone would be able to turn this entire platform of mine into something that could challenge Hassan's in a matter of weeks or months. Because money talks. Money does get the job done. If I could get 5 people to do the work that is needed full-time and they were professionals at it, and they could dedicate 40 hours a week to it, done deal. Fun. Not even a question. Not even a question. We would be challenging Hassan on Twitch, on YouTube, Facebook, and all the other ones in a matter of weeks. No doubt. No doubt. But I don't got the money. And I'm also not going to capitulate to right-wing extremism so that I can get billionaire money. I've thought about it. I've strongly considered it. But at the end of the day, my moral compass will not allow me to do that. I will absolutely undermine them. I have no compunction about challenging them or threatening them. But I am not going to repeat or puppet or parrot their rhetoric just so I can get ahead and do a bait and switch. That's like, I still have to sleep at night and look at myself in the mirror. So I hope that answers that question. Why do I think I'm qualified and that piece of shit isn't? All right. Plot against King Kash Patel. Yikes. Reminds me of that scene from Big Daddy. Remember when I told you Aunt Faye was coming to New York and I wanted you to show her the city? Okay, that's a whole lot of stuff there. On top of not having any experience related to being the director of the FBI, Kash is also dumb and not all there. True. If having just a reading level above 7th grade would be a minimum requirement, I mean, I got him beat. My reading level was at the 12th grade. Okay, so CNN isn't doing us any favors today at all. Like, that's
just one more screenshot and this SOP is finally done.
The fallout from Charlie Kirk's killing has spread to the workplace. People are getting fired for comments that seem to celebrate or glorify the assassination of the MAGA activist and father of 2 young children. These companies and organizations have reported either terminating or suspending employees for posts about Kirk, and that includes Middle Tennessee State University firing a worker they say had, quote, zero empathy.
And we're not going to challenge that.
Conservative activist, Republican lawmaker.
Did anybody get fired for mocking George Floyd's death? Did anybody get fired for mocking the Democrats' death? Did anybody get fired for mocking Palestinians being murdered by Israelis? No? So why aren't we fucking talking about this?
And even a doxing website are flagging the comments in what critics say is a campaign to punish those posters. Let's bring in Jessica Kriegel, the Chief Strategy Officer of Culture Partners. Jessica, thanks so much for being here with us. Look, there is, of course, the First Amendment and freedom to speech in this country, but there's also private companies who hire people, and it would seem to me if it's a private company, they get to decide who they want to hire and fire.
Holy shit, are they actually challenging this?
Absolutely. They don't need a reason to fire you if you're an at-will employee, which most workers in the U.S. are at-will contracts. So they can fire you because you wore green instead of blue one day. It doesn't matter really what the leader's job.
Actually, that's also not true. This is at will does not mean you can be arbitrarily discriminated against and fired without cause. Now, some lawyers in some states will imply that. Well, it's at will, so there's really not much we can do unless it's blatant discrimination, like actual racism or actual sexism. There's very little that we can do to protect you because the evidence proving that you were discriminated against or retaliated against is very difficult to provide because they'll just say, well, it was at will at the end of the day, and all of these other things have nothing to do with it. It was because of X, Y, and Z. So it's not correct, and it is extremely misleading to say that at will means you can be fired for any reason whatsoever or no reason at all. That is not true. There is still justification that is required. It's just much, much harder for the defendant, i.e. the person that got fired, to defend themselves because we live in this fucking country which perpetuates these kinds of ideals. So which is it with these grifting politicians? Do they know what the smart move is and they don't give a crap and scam people? Or are they just as stupid as Patel and don't know any better? I think it's both. I think some of them take advantage of situations and they try and capitalize on it. But most of them are just too stupid to know any better and care more about power than any of the harm that they're doing. I don't know if Charlie was the boss of it because, quite frankly, his wife was exponentially more successful than he was, so she might have been calling the shots.
Identify the workers who are aligned with the culture that they're trying to cultivate, the strategy that they have to achieve their results towards their purpose. So with American Airlines, for example, they said that the person was suspended because it's in line with their purpose, which is to
obviously
care for
this
people
isn't going anywhere either. Let me be very clear. Charlie Kirk, his death is nothing to mourn. The only part of his death that is worth mourning is the fact that he was not held criminally accountable for the myriad things that he has done to undermine democracy in this country and to foment hate and hate crimes against people who have either died or been victim to ICE, the policing, advocating for genocide and against Palestinians. He is a war criminal and a white supremacist and has committed crimes against humanity by using his platform to perpetuate them. That is the only tragedy in his death, that he was not charged, sentenced, and executed accordingly. I work at Marzetti, Allen, Dairy in Columbus, Ohio on Frank Road. Please, do with that information what you will. I am so sorry. I don't know why my nose is itchy. So, I mean, look at this. I look like fucking Rudolph right now. I wonder if I'm allergic to the seasoning or something. All right. You mean to tell me the reason he was never booted from his show when he had said racist and vile things was because nobody could fire him? It's funny that she is now going by Erica Kirk. If you Googled her before, she went by her maiden name, even though Charlie said that women must submit to their husbands and take their last names. Oh, yeah. The grift keeps on grifting, and they... Like, all of these people are evil, and they find the other evil, their other evil half, and they just take full advantage of that cruelty and malevolence for as long as they are capable. It's insane. The company letting a show on the air couldn't drop a show? Right, because the vice president took it over. The vice president of the United States of America took over Charlie Kirk's podcast. Thought I was doing coke. Jesus. Very Tony Montana? Wow. That's not what I was expecting to be said, but hey, sure, I guess we'll go with that. Good Lord. Yeah, let's
Just
do
days
Democracy
into
Now!
Trump's deployment of hundreds of federal immigration officers to Chicago, ICE agents fatally shot Silverio Villegas Gonzalez after the 38-year-old father panicked and began to drive away in his car trying to evade arrest. Minutes earlier on Friday, Villegas Gonzalez had dropped off his children at school. ICE claimed he dragged an ICE agent with his car. The officer then fired his weapon. Villegas Gonzalez was unarmed and had no criminal record. He was born in Michoacan, Mexico.
Here's the thing, too, and I'll say this. If you're at a traffic stop, whether it's ICE or the police, driving away is probably the last thing you want to do. That being said, ICE is also going to kidnap you and then traffic you. So, like, what do you even say to that? Like, normally the advice is, hey, if you get pulled over, show them your papers, show them your ID, give them all the information that you want, be very compliant, and have a nice day. If the cop is racist and starts treating you whatever, ask for their badge number or their supervisor, and pray they don't kill you, right? But if a cop wants to fuck you up, a cop can and will fuck you up. The problem is, now the cop can not only fuck you up, will fuck you up, and wants to fuck you up, they're going to get away with it. So it's like, the normal advice of just comply only works if you look like me. Just sit there, smile, hello officer, give them the papers. But if you're brown and it's ICE, there is not even a 50-50 chance that you walk away from that. It's more like 100% chance you are going to be arrested, kidnapped, and trafficked somewhere. So, of course, people are going to start panicking, and that's what they want. They want you to panic so that you do something that gives them even the smallest hint of an excuse to use lethal force against you because they hate you, they want you to die, and they know that they can get away with it. So, my advice to you, if you are confronted with ICE, and you are brown, do what you got to do.
And worked as a cook. The killing came as the Trump administration intensifies its immigration crackdown in Chicago under so-called Operation Midway Blitz, which DHS Assistant Secretary...
I know because I forced myself to watch his crappy-ass shows a few times. Oh. Really? He was very well funded and his main advertiser was his crypto scam. That's fucking... Yeah, I guess that's what we're missing on the left. We need our own crypto scam to fund... We just need to create Antifa coin, right? BLM coin. Actually, I bet both of those already exist. I bet Antifa coin does exist. It does! According to Phantom.com, Antifa is a token that is worth $0.0000568. And it's part of the Solana network, with a total market cap of $5,900, with almost 1 billion circulating supply and 51 holders. And where can you get it? Oh, it can be actually bought and sold on Phantom platform. That's fucking wild. And just to be clear, it is the anti-fascist logo thing. The black and the red flags. And I don't see that there is any information about it whatsoever beyond that. That's crazy, though. That's... I don't even know what to say to that, actually. I was kind of half expecting there to be one, but the fact that it's so small is what's kind of surprising. To the moon, I guess. Against fascism. All right.
Tricia McLaughlin claimed would target, quote, the worst of the worst. The Cato Institute revealed earlier this year that 65% of immigrants arrested...
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. You can't even call it a scandal anymore because normally a scandal results in the person that's behind the scandal or participating or perpetuating the scandal to then be charged, arrested, and removed from whatever position they were in and being a social pariah forever. That's a scandal. What we're having is the news reporting on criminal activity and doing nothing about it. Because this administration is going to do nothing about it, and nobody's going to hold this administration accountable to do something about it. So we can't even call scandals anymore because nothing happens with them. We have had hundreds of Watergates since this administration started its shtick on the 21st of this year. Hundreds of Watergate scandals. And not a single person has resigned, as far as I'm aware, from this administration whatsoever.
In Trump's raids had no criminal convictions, and over 93% were never convicted of violent offenses. Protesters gathered in the Chicago suburb of Franklin Park over the weekend demanding justice for Villegas Gonzalez.
I agree with you, Anna.
It's not fair for our hardworking people who come out here to this country to earn a living. And I just want to say God bless all. Hopefully it gets best wishes for everybody. Hopefully everything gets better situations. But we just need to try, stop scaring our people.
Silverio Villegas Gonzalez's family has organized a fundraiser to help cover the costs of his funeral and burial. In a statement they wrote, he was, quote, someone who always extended a helping hand, shared his smile freely, showed up for those he loved, no matter the circumstances.
Now, Anna, can you see if there's any statistics whatsoever about how many people ICE have killed so far? Like this year? Because it's going to get to the point where the killings by police officers aren't even making national news anymore. School shootings aren't making national news anymore. Active shooters are barely making the news anymore unless they're all high profile or happen to go viral, right? So now, these ICE killings, they're making the news pretty consistently. But we are going to be entering into the territory where even those become normalized and don't even make headlines anymore. Hey, I don't mind doing my own homework of statistics, but I'm not good at multitasking, typing, and looking and talking about a video at the same time. I'm not Hassan, okay? I'm not 6'4" and handsome and muscular and can multitask, okay? I'm just 6 foot, mildly less handsome and mildly less muscular, okay?
As ICE agents swarmed the streets of Chicago, advocates also reported the abduction of William Jimenez Gonzalez on Friday. He's a day laborer who's suing off-duty Chicago police working as security for Home Depot for abusing immigrant day laborers. His legal team says he was taken into custody by ICE in retaliation for his lawsuit. This is Miguel Alvaro Rivera.
Like, how can you get arrested in retaliation? Right? Because, again, you have to commit a crime. And if the crime is that they are mad at you, then that's not a fucking crime. And, again, the whole resisting arrest thing. The Supreme Court has upheld it that you can resist unlawful arrest. Of course, it seems as though that they have undermined that now since, but it's like, we don't live in a free country anymore, or a country of laws, if ICE or police can just target you and disappear you, and you have no fucking say in the matter. Especially if you didn't do anything wrong. Alright, so we don't have stats. Okay. Well, so in 6 years, an average of 10 people were shot and 4 people were killed. Which is entirely too many. That is entirely too many. Granted, significantly less than police, but then again, ICE has been a significantly smaller department. So proportionately, I wonder if between ICE agents and criminal interactions, if those numbers are actually similar to the over 1,000 people that the cops kill every single year, and the 35,000 shots that are fired into suspects.
Executive Director of Latino Union of Chicago speaking Saturday at a press conference.
In the initial stages of preparing the lawsuit, we made sure William and the other workers understood the potential risks of going public about what they had experienced. Once people know who you are and that you're standing for justice, they might bother you more than before. William took a deep breath, and in our group's meeting, he said, I know, but I'm not only doing this to just get justice for myself and my compas. I'm doing this because I don't want anybody else to ever have to live through what I have lived.
This all comes as President Trump is moving to deploy National Guard troops to Memphis with threats that Chicago will be next. For more...
Well, evidently, ICE also engages in dealing with gang members that are in here illegally as well, right? Undocumented and so on and so forth, which could just as easily fall under the purview of the FBI. So, like to your point, why does ICE have guns? And why did we just fund ICE to the tune of over $200 billion and are giving them 6-figure checks and $50,000 sign-on bonuses? Obviously, we're creating a paramilitary force. Obviously, we are creating a secret police force. Obviously, it's not just for immigrants. It's obviously to crack down against dissent. It's just taking much, much longer to do it here under this administration than it took the Nazis to do in Germany. It took the Nazis less than 2 months to pull it off. And here in America, it's taking Trump over 8 months. 8 months and counting. Almost 9 months and counting.
We're joined by 2 guests in Washington, D.C. Representative Delia Ramirez, Democratic Congressmember from Illinois, is with us. She's the first Latina Congressmember to represent Illinois. And in Chicago, we're joined by Kevin Herrera, Legal Director of Raise the Floor Alliance, an attorney for William Jimenez Gonzalez. Congressmember, let's begin with you. And the killing of Silverio Villegas Gonzalez. He was stopped in a traffic stop after bringing his kids to school. Explain what you understand happened next.
First of all, what happened to Silverio is absolutely devastating. What we understand is that the ICE report that they released and the footage we have seen does not match. ICE is saying that the agent had been dragged for a long distance. The footage shows that it was less than 100 feet. The footage also shows that there was an unmarked SUV that barricaded Silverio. I mean, the point is, ICE stopped a man right after he dropped off his child at school because he's brown, because maybe he looked like he worked a minimum wage job, and then shot him to death.
And Congresswoman,
the boss of Silverio in the Hero shop where he worked claimed that he worked 11 hours a day, that he was a model worker. And your response to this continued criminalization of what is essentially many hardworking immigrants here in the country?
I mean, Juan, not only that, what people haven't talked about that, not only was he a father to a 7 and a 3-year-old, he had full custody of these children. These children were left orphans because of ICE and the action they took that morning. It is bone chilling. People are asking in Chicago and certainly all over the country, if I get stopped because I'm brown, if I get stopped dropping off my child, will my child see me get shot by ICE? Because there's no justice, no accountability in this precise moment.
All right. Representative Delia Ramirez from Illinois. At least she is saying the right things. You know what? Considering how few of these videos and these people that are getting interviewed and then the correspondents and the journalists and this, that, and the other, considering how absolutely few of them will even acknowledge what the crime was, how it was a crime, and how it's negatively impacting society, I will let her stop right there and give her the kudos that she deserves. Because that's what I addressed before we even got into this video, is if you're Latino or brown or black or whatever getting pulled over, I can't even in good conscience tell you to simply comply, because the likelihood of you surviving that encounter is dramatically reduced. It used to be 50-50. Maybe that's a very pessimistic view of it. Maybe it was 30-70, whatever. The case is, it still wasn't great in your favor if you were brown, if you were black, that cop wouldn't find something to harass you with or for or outright kill you. But when it comes to ICE, it's more like 99-1. There is a 1% chance that ICE agent will not target you, will not harm you, will not arrest you, will not do something to you because they're actually doing their actual job, which would imply verifying that you are in fact an American citizen. Most of these fuckers see $1,500 bounty, $2,000 bounty. Most of these fuckers see, well, part of the 7,000 quota. That's a majority of these ICE agents. All they see is quota or money. They don't even give a shit who you are or what you're doing. Because again, they don't have warrants. Again, they don't even follow the warrants if they do. There was a warrant for the Hyundai plant. 4 people were covered under that warrant. And they raided every motherfucker at that plant. 500 people were arrested, detained, and put in inhumane conditions. Even though the warrant only accounted for 4. Are they being fired? No. Are they being charged? No. Is anything at all being done to them? No. So, how could I or anyone else in good faith or good conscience say, listen, obey, and comply when these people are also getting arrested at their immigration hearing? Whether or not they got denied after the hearing, some of them are getting arrested before they even show up to the meeting. They don't even get to walk into the meeting, they're already getting arrested. So, what advice could you possibly give people who are facing an overwhelming possibility that they are going to be captured, trafficked, and or killed, and not necessarily in that order? You can't advocate for violence. You can't advocate for fleeing. You can't advocate for to comply, and you can't even quote unquote exercise your rights because they will straight up fucking kidnap you anyway before you get the chance. So, if there was any advice that I could give, it would probably be to have an immigration lawyer's number on speed dial, and anytime you have any interaction, you fucking press that button and have it on loudspeaker. And tell them to record from their end. Because Short of that, I honestly don't know what you can do. I literally don't. If I get pulled over by a cop or ICE, the likelihood of me getting shot, killed, captured, or trafficked is extremely slim to none. Extremely slim. Because even when I did get pulled over and did have a cop pull a gun on me, I still didn't get shot. So, white privilege, folks. Like, that's a real thing. I'm not even making this shit up. I have had a cop pull a gun on me, de-escalate themselves while being recorded, and then they still arrested me for resisting arrest. But Warren County, Ohio, folks, one of the most conservative counties in the country. Anyway, if you are not a white man, and to include if you're a white female, if you are any other demographic that is not white man, the likelihood of you facing significant physical or psychological consequences is high. And like Anna said, her chances are extremely high of just outright getting killed. The fact that that is the case is the entire fucking problem, and that it is not happening, that there is no accountability, that there is no pushback, that there are no judges and precincts or governors calling for states of emergency to arrest ICE agents from terrorizing these communities is indicative of the whole problem. Again, I said my first day of Congress, the first day that I could present legislation on the congressional floor, and I don't know what the process is, because I know it's parliamentarian, and I know it requires a few different things than just, hi, I have 5 minutes to speak, I'd like to present this legislation to the floor, right? I know there's a bit more to it than that. I'm not naive, okay? I'm not that stupid, right? Whatever that process is, we will figure it out, and we will present, among many things, the arrest and dismantlement of ICE, because at this point they are acting as if they are a secret police force, and acting without any sort of judicial oversight, legislative oversight, or even executive oversight. They are just acting with impunity and terrorizing over 60 million people in this country. And that's just not okay. I've noticed that white women usually don't have issues during traffic stops, but they do get the police brutality during protests. Oh, okay, well, there you go. If you're a white woman or a white male, if you're white and you're pulled over, chances are you're good to go. If you're anybody else, have a civil rights lawyer on speed dial and or an immigration lawyer on speed dial. That's the only advice I can give. All right. All right, so hold on. Okay. So now we're talking about the boring stuff like the economy and credit scores. Let's go ahead and see if CNN can be honest about this and blame this administration for it.
For your words. All right, new this morning, new data showing that credit scores are falling at the fastest pace in the U.S. since the Great Recession, as Americans struggle to keep up with the rising cost of living. Let's go right to CNN's Matt Egan for this.
Imagine that.
Good.
Yeah, no, John, it's not. It's more evidence that some Americans, they're hurting because of the high cost of living and because of the return of student loans. So,
which are all policies, or are all conditions that have been created by policies from which fucking administration?
FICO had found that credit scores on average, they increased every single year between 2013 and last year when they dipped. And today, FICO says there's an even bigger drop this year. As you mentioned, the biggest since 2009 during the Great Recession. Credit scores, they're still pretty high, moving in the wrong direction, in part because more and more Americans are falling behind on their bills. FICO says the delinquency rates are at or...
It's also evidence that people lack the discipline to not spend money they don't have. But see, that's not something you can actually say. If the cost of living is skyrocketing, meaning rent is being increased for no fucking reason, the cost of food is going up for no fucking reason, gas is going up for no fucking reason, utilities is going up for no fucking reason, then it's not that people are spending money without discipline. It's that people need to fucking survive, and the cost of living, i.e., well, the cost of living is skyrocketing, but their wages are not keeping pace because, again, wages have been stagnant for over 30 years. So no, we cannot lay that at the feet of saying discipline because, again, 60% of Americans and more, and growing, are living in poverty. 60% of Americans are living in poverty, and over 90% of them are employed. So no, you can't simply say that it's a discipline issue. It's just, that's not the case. It is a poverty issue, and that is a policy issue. My credit score is great. I pay off my credit card bill every month. I don't borrow money I can't pay back. It's called a credit score, which means don't use credit if you can't pay it. Right, but people don't have the option. Over 60% of Americans don't have that option. 60% of Americans have to use credit that they cannot afford so that they can eat, keep the lights on, or pay rent. That's just the reality, which is a poverty issue. All right, that is literally a poverty issue. That is a policy issue based on economic policies that are harmful to the citizenry and not beneficial. So you are wrong. And it doesn't matter how many times you say it's not impacting you. It's not impacting me either. I have an over 800 credit score. I'm not affected by it either. I am not one of the 60% that are living through poverty whilst working. But it's still a problem because 60% of people are living in poverty despite working. That's not even a privileged thing to say. That's the facts. 60% of people are living in poverty. I am not one of the 60%. But that 60% number is growing, and eventually it may include me. There's every real possibility that I end up included in that 60% and growing poverty because of the policies that are not preventing the rising cost of living. Right? There aren't any rent caps. There's no accountability or retribution. There's no fines against companies arbitrarily raising prices. There's no vision whatsoever to reduce interest rates, which is the number one drive of why credit and borrowing is harmful because of the interest that we can't afford over time. And again, debt forgiveness, such as from student loans, should be standard anyway. Like that should be, like, education and healthcare shouldn't be costing us anything anyway. Oh, I'm not a self-centered sociopath. You know, you got a point there. I am not a self-centered sociopath. But, Liberty Twitcher, what does this battery thing mean? Turbo? What does that even mean? What does the Turbo badge? A subscriber of Twitch's monthly premium user service. Chat badge of the year. It takes hard work and Komodo hype to receive it. You should be proud to tell everyone you know about this. Twitch recap. Okay. Well, I guess the person Twitches a lot, but doesn't know anything about economics, which is fine. I wouldn't expect most people to.
We're near the highest level since 2009 on car loans, credit cards, and also on personal loans as well. And Gen Z,
because people need to survive.
Even more pressure. FICO says that credit scores for Gen Z down by the most of any age group since 2020. And part of that problem, of course, is student debt, right? Starting in February, they started to report delinquencies on student loans for the first time since COVID. And FICO has found that a record high 29% of people who have student debt have been reported as delinquent. Only 62.
Why are you reporting these numbers, these facts, these pieces of information as if they are occurring in a vacuum? This is what pisses me off. This is not occurring in a vacuum. This isn't like, 5 years after the COVID pandemic, a terrible Biden administration and an economy that did not drive good paying jobs or fulfill any of its promises to help the younger generations at all. On top of this administration, which has gone out of its way to tank the global economy and increase the cost of literally everything by destroying the supply chain. Nope. It just seems as though, surprisingly, for no reason whatsoever, people are just taking out more loans, using their credit cards more, paying more in interest rates, and are delinquent on their loan repayments. There's just some magical, undisclosed reason why that's fucking happening. It's fucking infuriating to watch this. How is this any less fascistic or authoritarian? How is this any less propaganda by not talking about the cause than just presenting it as if it's just something in a fucking vacuum?
2% have actually made a recent payment. And look at this, another 9%, they could be reported delinquent soon because they have student debt, but they have not made any recent payments. And it's not just student debt, right? You think about young people also contending with the worst job market for recent college graduates in years. I talked to a 22-year-old from Orlando who told me it took him 14 months and hundreds of job applications before he landed a job that wasn't a scam. But he said he's not making nearly enough money to get by, let alone to chip away at his $35,000 in student debt. So he said his credit scores have taken a drastic hit. And he's not alone. FICO found that almost...
Okay. Why are there so many scams? Why did it take 14 months? What is contributing to these factors? Why aren't jobs hiring? Why is it taking hundreds of applications to even get a job after 14 months? Why is our economy so fucking slow that that there are not enough jobs for this entire fledgling generation to enter into despite getting degrees and such? Like, what are the reasons? AI, downsizing, layoffs, stock buybacks, the fact that companies don't invest in themselves anymore, that they don't expand and build new locations, that they're not bringing jobs back from overseas, that they're buying out their competition and then shutting them down and selling them for parts. Like, there is any number of things that they could be saying right now. These two fucking idiots could be talking about the actual conditions that are causing it, and instead they're like, yeah, I talked to this kid, 22 years old, 14 months without a job, hundreds of applications, and then he finally landed one. Crazy how that, there is no reason whatsoever why that should have happened. It's just weird that it did.
2/3, 64% of Gen Z student borrowers, they rely on more debt just to get by. That's people who have
Which is what I was
debt.
telling Liberty
They've got
Twitch.
to rely on credit cards and buy now, pay later, and also personal loans just to pay their bills. So, John, I do think this is just more evidence of the K-shaped economy, right? Where a lot of people who have money in the market, they own their home, they're doing okay, others are not, and it just shows this disconnect where you got Wall Street, there's all this euphoria.
Bruh! How can you... Where do you get off by saying it's this weird K-shaped economy? The people with the money and the houses, they're doing great because they already had the money and the resources. Everybody else, they're suffering. Bro, the reason is because of the shitty Biden administration, which followed the shitty Trump administration, which was then followed by the second shitty Trump administration, and the fact that there are zero, nada support systems in place to help the younger generation. There is no jobs guarantee. There is no school to work pipeline. There isn't even what do you call those? Vocational school to work pipelines anymore. There are no job training programs. There are no apprenticeship programs. There are no first-time home buyer programs. There are no first-time car buyer programs, right? There are no attempts to reduce the cost of goods at all, right? like a cost reduction, what do they fucking call it? A price rising holiday, like for the next year, these are the prices. There's none of that. There is literally nothing. Oh, but you still got to pay your fucking student loans that aren't doing anything for you because the student loans that you got for the degree, those jobs aren't hiring anymore. So, sucks to suck. Hey, you can always join ICE. We'll give you $50,000 and a 6-figure paycheck. So by manufacturing a shitty economy and creating a secret police force, that's how you're going to get this generation to pick themselves up by their bootstraps, betray their fellow citizen? This is the same generation that refuses to join the military because they feel betrayed by this government. You think they're going to join the jackboots? No. So to say that this K-shaped economy is just is disingenuous for one, and an extremely massive disservice to anyone watching that video or watching it on the news. Absolute clown fuckery. Markets soar as Americans sour on the economy. Again, the economy is not the stock market, because if it were, 60% of people would not be working poor during record high markets. That's just not how that fucking works. But sure, let's click on it. Let's just get really, you know what? This is the only investment that fucking matters, apparently. And you know what? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Repo my guns? Hey, if everybody bought a gun and didn't pay for it, paid for it on credit, and then just didn't pay the bills, what are they going to do? Repo everybody's guns? They're going to repo 270 million people's guns? They're going to do that? They're going to repo 270 million rifles? Because there's no age limit for rifles. There's age limits for pistols. No age limits for rifles. You only have to be 18. And there are approximately 270 million 18-year-olds in America, because that's how many voting age people there are in America. About 270 million. So if every single one of the 270 million people bought rifles and shotguns, because those are also not age restricted, bought it on credit and just didn't pay for the credit, just saying, they're going to repo all our guns? They're going to repo all our guns? I'm not advocating for violence. I'm just stating, are they going to repo all of our guns?
Consumer sentiment in the U.S. is sliding to near historic lows as Americans grow increasingly frustrated with the economy. But don't tell that to stock traders. The S&P 500 has hit 4 record highs this month. So why is Wall Street so upbeat when many Americans feel like the economy?
Because Wall Street and the stock market is gambling with trillions of dollars of stock. And you know who controls 90% of all stock? Them. So the Dow and NASDAQ and S&P 500 going up and down is rich people making it go up and down and allowing the 10% of everybody else to play with it and do the buying so it goes up and then shorting them. Like this is literally the worst example of economic security that you could ever possibly use, because this is only reflective of the top 1%. Like, this literally is the billionaires and the finance firms that they control. That's all the stock market is. And by the way, one of my major policy platforms as president is to abolish the stock market for that reason specifically. And they will get bailed out if the economy fails. They'll be the first ones to get bailed out if the economy fails. It's fucking disgusting.
Is lousy. Let's get some answers and break down the numbers with CNN senior reporter Matt Egan and CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton. All right, Matt, to you first. What's going on here?
Yeah, Brianna, look, the mood on Wall Street has been unbelievably positive and optimistic. The stock market has taken off basically like a rocket ship ever since the president paused those Liberation Day tariffs. The S&P 500 has added almost 14 trillion.
How the fuck are you attributing stock market success to this administration terrorizing the global economy? Why are you guys such bootlegging propagandists? And they have the audacity, conservatives have the audacity to call CNN a liberal news network? Where? Look at his lips. See those ass-kissing lips? Those are some DSLs right there, motherfucker. Those lips exist to suck off the green cock of this regime. That unfucking believable. And I'm sorry for being so crass and being so derogatory, but those lips are literally kissing the ass, sucking the cock, cupping the balls of this administration. This network is a fucking joke. And they're supposed to be considered liberal. I smell a BS narrative through a graphic down below there. Yeah, it's fucking insane. I can't even watch the rest of it. And I get it that a lot of the news that you're finding is CNN. But evidently, I don't even know what to do. Yeah, CNN is definitely not liberal. What was... I guess we just gotta deal with CNN. Fucking trash.
Before we talk Abbott Big Ten blood drive
Sure,
ideas,
let's keep watching more ads.
With the scavenger
Fucking
hunt.
piece of garbage.
We have some really stunning numbers for you, I have to say. I was shocked when I saw these. It's about opinions of college education here in the United States, how important it is to have a college degree. CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton is here. I knew where things were trending, but there are a couple numbers here that I genuinely found surprising.
Yeah, let's just start off on the top line, right? You know, okay, a college degree is very important. You go back to 2010, it was 75%. 2013, 70%. 2019, 51%. Look at there, this number is now 35%. This looks a lot more like the number that we had in the late 1970s when it was 36%. But even so, 35% is lower than 36%. So we're talking about a drop of 40 points from 15 years ago. And in fact, the lowest percentage of Americans say a college degree is very important than at any point that Gallup has ever measured.
1978, which I can remember,
I do not.
Was pretty different than now.
Yes, very different. You know, back in 1978...
First of all, quit saying 1978. What kind of weird motherfucker says that? Who the fuck says 1978? Do you say 2025? You weird motherfucker. Also, in 1978 was one of the greatest economic recessions in our nation's history after the Great Depression due to the oil crisis. So, major recession in 1978, college degrees were garbage, and then Reaganomics came in, and guess what? 50 years later, 40 years later, we're back to fucking garbage again, where college degrees are worthless. Yeah, well, apparently you were born in 1976, not 19. What a all right, I don't want to say let's ban CNN from videos on this stream anymore, but like, my God, these have been very miss today. All right, 2 cups of water down. Whew. Good thing still got a third one. All right. Emails detail life and crime. Well, we don't give a shit. We don't give a shit that they committed the crimes. We know they committed the crimes. We are well aware that Epstein and Ghislaine, whatever the fuck her name is, committed heinous crimes against children. What we care about is all of the fucking politicians that were in those flight logs that were abusing those children that Ghislaine and Epstein provided them. Today it was hard to find any news that were not Charlie Kirk or International.
All right, breaking news. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that the framework for a deal has been reached to keep TikTok in the United States. Now, you might remember a bipartisan majority of Congress voted to effectively ban TikTok here because of Chinese ownership. But despite the law, the administration has kept pushing back that deadline.
We have a framework for a TikTok deal. The two leaders, President Trump and Party Chair Xi, will speak on Friday to complete the deal, but we do have a framework for a deal with TikTok.
This is so fucking stupid. Like, it is the year of our Lord, 2025, and we're talking about changing the ownership of a foreign company to American ownership so that we can have more control over how the information it possesses is presented, which strongly implies, and not even implies, tells us that every single platform in America is controlled by our government in some way, form, or fashion. Whether that's determining what can and can't be shared, how the algorithms work. That means Twitch. That means it's actually a fucking miracle that Hassan has 39,000 viewers right now, because Twitch is owned in America by Americans working with this administration, and he's a left-leaning, for lack of a better word, propagandist, right? I'm a candidate. He's a propagandist. He's an entertainer. He is a content creator. He is spreading the message of left-leaning ideology to the degree that he can, and he does. Okay? But how many people just happen across Hassan's network? Probably very few. Only political folks end up finding Hassan. If I'm watching XQC or, I don't know, Kai Cenat or Shroud or Moon or Summit 1G, is Twitch going to recommend me Hassan after that? No. It's probably going to be some other motherfucker. So let's just do live channels. Recommended for me. Recommended for me, Samuel Ronan, politician. Kai sent Mafia-thon. Okay, Hassan is showing for me. Okay. Arguably for me. I Show Speed, Shroud, Chilled Chaos, J3, Jupyverse, Vanilla Mace, Marvel Rivals, okay, a company. Warren, checkmark. Emiru, checkmark. Barbaros King, right? It's a bunch of gamers, right? Now, if I opened up Twitch directory all and opened it up on an incognito window, I guarantee it would be different. Maybe I can't guarantee that. I guess it still shows my IP. Not a great example, apparently. Point is, Twitch, YouTube, all of these things have their all algorithms where they feed you the content that you watch. But even if you're political, they also feed you right-wing stuff. Like, when Trump got elected and immediately started fucking with the FCC, I saw more right-wing content than I had ever seen in my life. And I have never gone out of my way to search for it before. Never. Other than to criticize it. But I don't consume right-wing media for the obvious reasons that it's garbage, right? So, like, every bit of social media feeds right-wing content through its channels, through its feeds, to be directed into people's eyes. Most people hit ignore. I hit ignore. I hit block. I hit unfollow. I hit whatever I had to hit. But most people will be like, oh, okay, this looks interesting. Oh, wow, what? Oh, conspiracy? I'll click on a conspiracy. Why the fuck not? And then they fall into the right-wing pipeline. They're trying to do the same exact fucking thing for TikTok now. And the fact that they're getting away with that is, and that, again, nobody's talking about it. Nobody's conflating it. Nobody's aggressing against it, right? CNN, they're not saying a fucking thing about this. All right. Congress wants U.S. companies spying on us. Patriot Act has mutated. It definitely has. They're trying to get him banned. Elon is leading the... Oh, they are trying to get Hassan banned? Shocking. And they're calling on getting him assassinated. Even though, you know, if you say anything about Charlie Kirk's death, you're a bad person. You should get fired. I'm voting Ronan. Thank you, Simply Steve. Appreciate that. This idiot of a Secretary of State said that if you come here and you like that Kirk is gone, prepare to be deported. Never have I ever seen anybody saying deportations include what you say. Correct. Because that would be a violation of the 14th Amendment. And, I mean, practiced law in general. Like, if I go to France, if I were to go to France and I had a fuck Marcon shirt, they would still let me into France. If I went to Germany and, well, I don't actually know the leader's name there, but, fuck that guy, they would still let me into Germany. If I went to, well, okay, maybe not China. China, Russia, if I wore a fuck Putin t-shirt to Russia, they probably would not let me do that. Or China, for that matter. But I don't know who the PM of Japan is either, but I'm pretty certain if I went to Japan with a fuck that guy t-shirt, they'd let me in. Most countries, apparently America and Russia and China, I just can't see myself. I don't know. Maybe China would. I don't know. All I'm saying is there are a handful of countries that will target you based on your political beliefs of that country if you try and visit. And now, America's one of them. All the other countries are being labeled as dictatorship and authoritarian. I'm not saying China is authoritarian, but I am saying China is a very proud country. Just generally speaking, the Chinese as a people are very proud of their culture, of their heritage, of their country, of everything to do with China. So if you tried to go to China with a fuck China or a fuck the party or what, I do see that not going well. But I don't think it would be a law. Maybe it wouldn't be a law, but I think you would be harassed. I think you would. Suffice to say, America has now entered the vaunted pantheon of authoritarian responses to visitors for mocking dear leader. So, wonderful. CNN, are you going to at least attempt to highlight how fucked up this is?
Trine is at the White House. Any idea what this framework for the deal is?
Well, we're still waiting for it, and we definitely heard Scott Besson try to play it off and say he can't share any of the details, but that the commercial aspects of the deal have been agreed to. Of course, we have to see what the president and Chinese President Xi Jinping say on Friday, because really what we've heard from both Besson and the United States.
Yeah, if I wore a fuck Xi Jinping shirt, I don't know that would go well for me. Trying to visit China. Didn't this idiot of a Secretary of State or his parents flee Cuba because they were afraid of being oppressed for maybe even liking that Castro was gone? Didn't he brag he got away from poor conditions? Yeah, he did. He did brag about fleeing Cuba and the dictatorship and the oppression of Fidel Castro. He 100% did.
Trade Representative Jamieson Greer is that it will be finalized after getting sign-off from leadership. And of course, that call between Trump and Xi is going to take place on Friday.
Well, is that call going to take place on Friday? Because Xi has done very little to actually answer Trump's calls. And that's fucking hilarious. That is based as fuck.
Just that. But we also heard more, John, from Jamieson Greer, like I said.
It was fleeing for stomping on free expression. Yeah, no, I mean, if we, there is not enough time in the day to list all of the hypocrisy and, that's all, the hypocrisy, the irony of this administration and everybody in it either being guilty of the very things they espouse to support or violating the things that they espouse to support by targeting the people doing the things that they support, but it's against them. They fled before Castro even took over. Batista actually imprisoned Marcos' family, but he blames Castro and communism. Batista was a capitalist dictator. Yeah, well, facts don't matter in America, apparently, if you're in the MAGA administration.
The United States Trade Representative, he was also in Madrid for these talks with their Chinese counterparts on this. And he said that the President Donald Trump, called both him and Bessent last night to share kind of what he wanted out of a potential deal. Listen to how he put it.
President Trump played a role in this. We had a call with him last night. We had specific guidance from him. We shared it with our Chinese counterparts. And without his leadership and the leverage he provides, we would not have been able to conclude the deal today.
Yeah. Leadership.
Now, John, if this deal is actually struck, it would be the culmination of a really years-long process now of trying to figure out what to do about TikTok. You mentioned it, but the president has now pushed back a self-imposed deadline multiple times
because this whole
on trying to reach a
kerfluffle
deal.
began during the Biden administration, right? Like, this whole thing has been ongoing since fucking Biden. And it's a huge nothing burger. They're not even telling us anything about it. Nor are they talking about the fact that this is so that they can control the social media. So they can... the whole point of making it American is so that American government can influence a private company's platform to be more promoting of the government's agenda and ideology. Which is probably why it's so fucking hard to find videos that are counter to this administration, Anna. Like, to your point, it was difficult to find anything that didn't have to do with Kirk or international news. Because despite the fact that you search for a bunch of different things, YouTube is not going to allow you to find the content that it doesn't want you to find, even if it's content that you look for. What's this?
If you manage a team or run operations, this is going to save you so much time. I like to make tutorials my team.
All right, a recent survey found that Americans are not feeling any better about the overall economy.
Imagine that.
President Trump's declaration that he solved inflation. New data from the University of Michigan.
How could you even solve inflation if every action you have taken, every step that you have made, every thought that you have had regarding the economy has done nothing but harm the economy, let alone just simply inflation? Like, this fucking guy pisses me off so damn much because he is such a problem. Like, he's a fascist, he's a scum, he's dictatorship, whatever. But he's also ludicrously incompetent, and nobody is telling the emperor he has no clothes. Like, why is there so much grace and leniency for this piece of shit? I don't understand why people are afraid of this absolute fucking idiot. Why are they afraid of him? He is incompetent, unintelligent, lacks leadership skills, lacks the ability to negotiate or to communicate in the slightest sense of the words. Why is anyone afraid of him? Honestly, after the fucking Sieg Heil from Elon Musk, how the fuck was that not an immediate arrest? Like, nope, you did the Sieg Heil. You are going straight to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 billion. Straight to jail for war crimes. Yes, the Sieg Heil is a war crime. Why? Because it espouses the Nazis. And why is that a war crime? Because they are the reason why war crimes and crimes against humanity had to be defined in law in the first place. Like, or the fact that he stole all of Social Security's information on a private server, and this administration allowed it? Like, there should have been so many immediate arrests. Just like, yep, U.S. Marshals, get him, Get them, especially get them, and then get the president for, allowing it. Like, that's how a functioning democracy operates. Or should operate. Does apparently operate in South Korea and Brazil. Apparently it doesn't operate that way in America. Who'da thunk? We have a definition of genocide due to the Nazis. Exactly. So anything to do with the Nazis, especially espousing their rhetoric or performing their actions, should be, that it is. I mean, am I wrong? Is it not considered a war crime? Am I overreacting? Am I overreacting a little bit? Okay. If I am overreacting, then it should be a war crime. How about that?
Consumer sentiment dropped nearly 5% compared to last month. And on top of that, the latest inflation figures show consumer prices rose 0.4% last month, bringing the annual rate to 2.9%.
Which means if you got a raise at any point in time this year and it was less than 2.9%, you got a pay cut.
Plus, for the first time in 4 years, there are more people looking for work than there are jobs available for them. I'm joined now by Laura Davison, the Deputy Bureau Chief with Bloomberg News. Laura, great to see you. So, what can we learn from these indicators about how consumers are feeling?
So it is clear that consumers are not happy, and particularly in the job market is where we've seen a lot of signs that the market is just not strong. There are increasing
because the market can't solve social issues. The market does not exist to provide for social issues or social prosperity. The market exists to make the market strong, period. And the people who control the market, strong. That's what capitalism is. It's capitalists control the means of production, and so everything to do with capitalism is to benefit the capitalists.
Unemployment claims, the unemployment levels are as high as they've been sort of in the immediate aftermath of the pandemic. So that's a worrying sign, and this is likely going to lead the Fed this week to lower interest rates for the first time in several months. That means, rates on things like credit card payments.
Why are people so angry that everything is expensive and jobs are paying crap? Why are there less jobs and more people looking for jobs? Why is inflation going up and the cost of goods going up as well? Like, why are all these things happening? Let's not discuss that at all. Let's just ask the fucking question.
Mortgages could come down, but it may not be enough for people to really feel that in their day-to-day activities.
60%
of Americans feel that in their day-to-day.
But at the same time, you go to the grocery stores, and it's pretty costly, and it's getting costlier by the second. We know, coffee, for example, has gone up considerably in the last year. Prices up nearly 21%.
Why is that? Could it be because of tariffs? Could it be because of this failed trade war?
Causing, prices, what is particularly causing these prices to go up?
So there's a couple different factors.
Okay.
Grocery prices is one of the areas where we've seen some of the biggest gains, really stretching people's pocketbooks. But there's a lot of concern about the tariffs. Hey!
They finally said something. They finally said something. The tariffs. Now, let's see, for special bonus points, for extra credit, are they going to imply and actually state that the tariffs are actually import taxes? Let's see. Let's see if they actually tell us what they are.
Went into effect into the spring, but they wouldn't. Companies have been really trying to not pass on these price increases.
Bullshit! Are you what? Companies have been trying. Fuck out of here.
To their consumers, but they're getting to the point as we head into this Christmas shopping season towards the end of the year that they have to start passing on those cost increases. They're no longer able to eat those import taxes. So this is a big.
Yes, they are, because again, every single company has had record profits every single quarter without missing a single fucking quarter of profits for the past, 15, 20 years? So, yes, They can afford to eat costs.
Area of concern, as the tariffs are really start to hit, and that this could, further fuel inflation, which had, was a big problem several years ago. What came down a little bit, but it's now at about 3%, up from where the Federal Reserve wants to see it at about 2%.
Paycheck.
Huh. Imagine that. The tariffs are a problem, but we're not going to explain why they're a problem. It's just the boogeyman. Tariffs. Oogie boogie 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 tariffs. Ooh, tariffs. Motherfucker. Tariff is a tax paid on imported goods by the importee, meaning us. We buy the good from foreign land. We pay a tariff on it. We pay the tariff on the good that comes from tariff land. It is an additional consumer tax. Deadline approaching.
This is what Ivy League universities you can get into with a 3.6 GPA.
90%. There's a deadline.
Is this the thing where Trump is trying to whitewash history by removing any sort of record of slavery occurring in this country? Is this part of that?
This week in the White House's review of displays at national parks. Here's the backstory. In March, an executive order directed the Interior Department to ensure public property did not contain anything that could, quote, inappropriately disparage Americans' past or living. Now, that material is due to be removed or covered by Wednesday. And last week, the Associated Press reported some of the information park employees submitted for review. A book titled Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl by Harriet Jacobs was flagged at Charles Pinckney National Historic Site in South Carolina. At the Washington Monument, someone flagged a book that discussed the fact that George Washington owned slaves. In Florida, an employee at the Castillo de San Marcos National Monument noted a panel about the imprisonment of Plains Indians. That employee wrote that the text needed review because language of U.S. government giving choice of extinction could be considered negative towards the United States. Joining me now.
I mean, what do I say to that? We have a national park employee flagging the panel at the Castillo de San Marcos National Monument in Florida, language referring to tribes having the choice of extinction or assimilation, language of U.S. government giving the choice of extinction could be considered negative towards the United States. Did the Nazis do, like, I don't know that the Nazis actually could have done something like this. Because Germany, I think, yeah, sure, Germany had slaves at some point. Every country did. But, like, I genuinely think that I don't think the Nazis went this far. But I don't think they did. I don't remember if they did. And I'm not saying that the Nazis were good. I'm saying, like, I believe America is going steps further to hide our crimes, steps further than the Nazis did to hide their crimes and whitewash German history. We are taking what the Nazis did to whitewash their history, which was, again, the first time book burnings occurred, the first time genocide was clearly defined, war crimes and crimes against humanity. We're doing all of that in addition to sanitizing our history. The same history that this administration and the conservative ilk were saying is why we can't get rid of the Confederate monuments. The war that the Confederates fought being the Civil War being fought because of the right to own slaves, which was the states' rights to determine which is how they justify the Civil War. It was about states' rights. So how are you going to sanitize Confederate monuments? Because they were slave owners who wanted to continue owning slaves and murder slaves that dissented or resisted. Like, I don't even know what to say to this. Like, this goes beyond hypocrisy. This is literally rewriting history to be fan fiction of U.S. history. And again, nobody's stopping it. Nobody's resisting it. Nobody's calling it out. Nobody's undermining it. You got fucking national parks people going along with it. And the national parks were actually one of the few departments that was standing their ground against this administration. All right, CNN, how are you going to suck the dick of this administration now by responding
Alan
to this?
Spears, Senior Director at the National Parks Conservation Association. Thank you for being with me. I read some of what the AP is reporting will be decided upon what will happen with it next. What's at risk for the park visitors if these are removed, covered, other contextual signs and markers like them?
Well, good morning. It's great to be with you. Listen, what we're talking about here is an effort to sanitize our history as it's being told and interpreted in national parks. So these are stories that nobody is questioning the veracity of the National Park Service's interpretation here. It's not like they've gotten the facts wrong. It is that following up on the presidential executive order from earlier, and then Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum's secretarial order 3431 from May 20th of this year, there are some folks who believe that we can't handle the truth as a country, and that we need to remove certain references to slavery, references to transgender activism, things that might
indigenous genocide.
And I think what's at stake here is just the honest rendering of our history in ways that are accurate, just, inclusive, and inspiring. That's what's at risk here.
Okay, so Alan, you say that it's sanitizing. Let me put it to you from the administration's perspective.
Why the fuck would you? Why the fuck, as a black man in America, in this administration, why the fuck, as a black man, would you even want to frame it from the administration's perspective? That is not your job as a journalist, as a correspondent, whatever the fuck your title is. Look at this man's eye rolling. This guy just...
They say that these markers, the parks, and they point specifically to the Biden administration. They say that the focus was too much on the negative of American history and not on the goodness and abundance of the United States. And so from that perspective, you say what?
Well, I'd say this. I think that we have a long and deep and complex history in this country, and it involves many elements. And so, for instance, if we go to a place like Independence Hall in Philadelphia, where the Park Service is now being asked to remove a display about slavery at the president's house in Philadelphia, that what we have is people in the late 1700s, 1780s, figuring out how we actually established this country and working on ideals and principles of democracy. At the same time, they are existing side by side with enslaved Africans. That is all a part of our shared national narrative. And you can't decouple those things in any kind of effective way and still claim to be about truth and justice. So that's my response. I think that's the response of so many people in this country, that we want to make sure that there's room for everything. This isn't denigrating America. This isn't denigrating our founding fathers. It is sharing the complexity of the history at the start of this country.
You know, we've talked about the issues of discrimination and racism, slavery, the impact on indigenous people as well. One thing that I guess I did.
Yeah, no, this guy is good. Whoever, I forgot now. Where's the introduction here? Did they not give us his name? Okay. Well, this guy on the right, absolute, he's doing his best. The fucking CNN employee, though, is a goddamn piece of garbage.
When this review was announced, there's a sign titled "The Air We Breathe" that was flagged at Cape Hatteras in North Carolina because it discusses the importance of clean air. Pollution from human-caused ozone, it explains,
Alan Spears,
threatens people's health and vegetation, and power plants and cars and industries that burn fossil fuels are the pollutants' primary sources. According to AP, that's one that's under review. What's your reaction to not just a focus on disparities and discrimination, but on climate in this perspective?
I have no idea.
Well, we do have some assaults on science as well that's taking place here.
Yeah, there's assaults on science. They are stripping Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, and yes, female Americans and their accomplishments from the military histories. They are stripping indigenous Americans, their contributions during World War II and throughout all of our history as well. They are sanitizing everyone's contributions in America that wasn't white and male. So, this motherfucker is trying to be Ben Shapiro. Well, let's just debate about it. Or Charlie Kirk. Oh, it's just a debate. Let's just have a debate. Let me take the most disingenuous position on this subject, and then why don't you argue against that disingenuous position from the position of that disingenuous position, instead of, setting it afire and watching the smoke go into the sky. I don't. So who's this guy? Victor something? Victor Blackwell. Victor is either being set up to be a patsy or he is a fucking patsy. This is.
Maybe let's take a step back and look at the incredibly important role that our national parks and the National Park Service play in helping to inform the public about our historic and cultural resources, but also other issues that are pressing today, including our climate emergency. National parks are places where people can go. They are these incredible outdoor living classrooms that can give people a sense of the political issues, the social issues, scientific issues, and the climatic issues that are facing us as well. And what we see right now is an effort to just, again, sanitize this history so that people can
at least, you know what?
Unchallenged.
This guy is at the very least saying exactly what needs to be said. He's using the right words. This is a sanitation attempt of history and our country.
Experience when they go to these national parks. I think that's taking us in the wrong direction.
Alan Spears, good to have your thoughts on this. Thank you.
Yeah, that was, you know what? Alan Spears is the whole reason why this video was actually worth a damn. Unfucking believable. Is this the one where it's talking about... Oh, okay. This video is at least a little bit better. Or maybe, I don't know. Probably not. But this is at least going to talk about how there's a paradigm shift in America that is now beginning to embrace socialism versus capitalism.
Kathy Hochul has endorsed the candidate for mayor here in New York who won the Democratic primary, Zohran Mamdani. Other Democratic officials have not. Mamdani calls himself a Democratic socialist.
Socialism is not a four-letter word in Democratic primaries, not among Democratic voters. It's a five-letter word in the minds of a lot of Democrats, that five-letter word being great. Look at this. Net popularity of socialism among Democrats. You go back to 2010, It was plus 7 points. Look how high it is now, up like a rocket, up to plus 36 points. That's a jump of nearly 30 points on the net popularity scale among
great.
Democrats in just 15 years. And I was looking at the polling from New York City, and what you see is the clear plurality of New York City Democrats think the idea of having a socialist mayor is a good idea, matching what we see nationally. The bottom line is socialism isn't a dirty word among Democrats at this particular point. It's actually a word that, when attached, Democrats seem to like it.
That's a huge jump, and that's not that long ago, let me add.
No.
What about capitalism?
Yeah, okay, so if all of a sudden socialism is now a 5-letter word, great. What I would say is capitalism in the mind of Democrats is a 3-letter word, bad. What are we talking about? Net popularity of socialism among Democrats.
See, now here's the
Look
thing.
at this trend.
I have said that I'm going to run for Congress as a Republican. Anybody who has spent any time on this channel knows for a fact I am not a Republican. At least not a modern day Republican. I am an Eisenhower Republican. I am a Lincoln Republican, if you want to say that. I am the Republican that was left-leaning and fighting for the people, right? So that's the kind of Republican I am. That being said, well, according to that poll, shouldn't I run as a Democrat and then just be as brazen about socialism and this, that, and the other as I want to be? Well, the answer is no. And the reason why I will never run as a Democrat ever again is because the party has proven over and over and over again willing, able, and going out of its way to sabotage and rig its own primaries in the favor that it wants. Even if we take Zoran Mamdani, the party has not endorsed Zoran despite the fact that he won the Democratic primary. They are coalescing still around Andrew Cuomo. Despite overwhelming unpopularity, they are still going to him. Now, is Zoran possibly going to win regardless? Sure, but that is he might very well be an upset and an exception to the rule that Democrats can control the outcomes of their elections. An exception. The majority of which, though, is not the case. Whoever the Democrats put in their primary typically is the one that they win. And if some upset does happen, like AOC, Zoran, they will wear down those individuals or threaten them or both until they capitulate and comply with the Democratic establishment, which is blue MAGA. What's the difference between blue MAGA and red MAGA? The color. It is the same fundamental policies, the same donors, and the same things that get voted into law. The only difference is the amount of lip service Democrats are willing to give to social issues versus Republicans. That is literally the only difference. And as we have seen, Zoran Mamdani, although still leading the polls, and Democratic Socialist, this, that, and the other, has begun to walk back a significant number of his claims, especially when it comes to Palestine, especially when it comes to Israel, and especially when it comes to cracking down against capitalist influence in the Big Apple. And we are seeing that every single time that he speaks, he is becoming more and more establishment democratized, however you want to phrase that. He's turning bluer MAGA-er, right? With every passing day. And it is because of that weakness, because of that capitulation, because of that influence the establishment has on its its membership, to be precise. There is no revolution that can take place in the Democratic Party. None. They pushed out Hogue. David Hogue. They pushed out David Hogue from being the vice chair of the DNC. David Hogue, the national wunderkind who survived Sandy Hook and has had a political rise within the Democratic Party, advocating for this, that, and the other, and being the voice of Gen Z. They pushed him out rather than lean left with him and all the support that he brought. And I'm not even saying David Hogue was left-leaning. I'm just saying they pushed him out for not being centrist or right-leaning enough. So, the Democratic Party is a non-starter. They are the exact same party as the Republicans. They just give lip service to social issues. But when push comes to shove, they never, ever, ever, ever follow through. They're sabotaging Zoran as we speak. Red MAGA is just more open about being racist. Right, exactly. But it is noteworthy that my platform is more tolerable amongst all voters, which is the part that I want to get.
It was plus 8 points in 2010 on the positive side of the ledger. Look at where we are in 2025. Down, falling through the floor at minus 13 points. That's a drop of over 20 points in just 15 years. So we see the exact opposite trend that we see at socialism, which is up, up and away. What we see with capitalism is down, down, down through the floor.
Okay, we're talking about Democrats here. What about if you look at the larger population, Harry? Is it the same type of thing?
This is where the danger is for Democrats, because if socialism plays in Democratic primaries, it does not play in the general electorate. What do we see going on here? Net popularity among all adults. Capitalism is on the positive side of the ledger at plus 12 points. Socialism way, way, way underwater at minus 18 points. So that's capitalism running away by 30 points over socialism. That is why Republicans are thanking their lucky stars if Mamdani, in fact, wins the general election, because they feel like they can play off of him, because socialism may play in New York City among Democrats, but among the general electorate, Donald Trump and the Republicans are saying, hey, look at this socialist mayor in New York City. This is what we're dealing with. So again, something may play in Democratic primaries. It may play in the very Democratic city of New York. But
I don't
among
buy
the general
that.
electorate, Republicans are salad.
And I guess I stand corrected. I mean, based on this poll, I stood corrected because I thought that this was going the direction of socialism was on the rise overall. But it is on the rise overall amongst millennials and younger. It's boomers who do not believe in socialism, which is ironic because they're the only ones benefiting from socialism. Medicare and Social Security. They are literally the only generation that is benefiting from even an ounce of socialism, and they're against it. Like, you can't make this shit up. The only generation, the only cadre of citizens that are actually able to benefit from socialism are literally staring the gift horse in the mouth. So, maybe I do have my work cut out for me, but whatever. We're going for it as Republicans in this district because it's a very gerrymandered district anyway. So, even if I wanted to run as a Democrat, and I don't, but if I did, but I don't, there'd be no point in doing so. Which brings us to the end of the stream. What a stream we have had. I mean, my God. I don't think, one of these days, I'm going to have, like, some sort of USB connected device that can measure blood pressure. I'll just have a blood pressure cuff under my uniform or whatever. And it'll be, like, right up here in the corner. As the stream goes, how high is my blood pressure in my pulse? As the fascism just wears my nerves thin. Excuse me. So, with that, I guess, thank you all for coming here. Thank you all for watching the stream. Thank you for spending 3 hours with me on a Tuesday evening. I know there's a lot of familiar faces, maybe a couple new faces. Please, please, please. This is the shameless self-plug, right? Like, share, subscribe. Let your friends know. Let everybody know that we're here. We're angry and get used to it. Yeah, I don't know. I gotta come up with a better, different call to arms because that was about to backfire. We're here. We're queer. No, I don't want to appropriate a community that I'm not in. But still, we are streaming Tuesdays through Thursdays, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. So it is 10 o'clock now. Whenever it is at your time, -1 or 2, it's Eastern here. Tuesdays, we talk about U.S. policies. Wednesdays, we talk about foreign policies and events. And then on Thursdays, we do a recap. Here in the next few weeks, we are going to try and add a Friday and possibly a Saturday. where we can do conspiracy theories again and actually maybe even a gaming day on a Saturday. So that it's not just doom, gloom, and rage. Because, again, this is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be whimsical and lighthearted, but our country is literally on fire. So, if politics is your deal, we're the place to come from. I might not be 6'4" and as handsome as Hassan, but I'm getting there. So, with that being said, see you all tomorrow at 7 p.m. for Worldwide Wednesdays. Your president, Samuel Ronan, out.